Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when we come for you? And that's the best, and that's next mention knows hey.
Good morning to all the bad boys out there. I'm your host, Diego Crespo. With me today is my co-host, Macaringo.
Hell yeah.
We're here to talk about, on the Waffle Press Retrospective, the greatest movie saga in the history of cinema. It's not Star Wars. It's not Star Trek. It's not Alien. It's not Lord of the Rings.
It's not Fast and Furious.
It's not Fast and Furious, although some people conflate the two, but no, those are two very different vibes.
It's not John Wick.
It's not John Wick.
It's not, what are the other franchises?
I think we got the good ones out of the way.
The Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
It's not, there's a good handful of franchises that maybe are better than Bad Boys, but, you know.
How dare you? Yeah, we're here to talk about Bad Boys.
Yeah.
Bad Boys 2, Bad Boys for Life, not Bad Boys Ride or Die, which everyone has said should have been called Bad Boys for Life. They obviously should have saved that title for the fourth movie.
I was saying that before Bad Boys for Life was even out.
But you know what? Credit to Will Smith and Martin Lawrence on their press run, which is just like a TikTok video, I guess, where they were like they responded to a comment because they got to do the modern media training bullshit, whatever. Mm-hmm. And they're like, someone mentioned like, yeah, this one should have been called Bad Boys for Life, and they're like, yep, we screwed up. This one totally should have been called Bad Boys for Life.
Yeah. And
so it's like, that's just cutesy marketing stuff, but it's like, hey, at least like in some way or another they said it. Like we all know it.
Yeah.
So, like, what I want them to do is because, like, now they're changing movie titles, right? Where it's, like, Edge of Tomorrow is really now, like, whatever the other title is. I don't remember. It's Edge of Tomorrow to me because I can't keep up with the other ones.
It's Live, Die, Repeat, I believe.
There you go, that one.
But then the source material has the best name of all.
Yeah, All You Need Is Kill.
Yeah, which is one of the greatest movie titles of all time, and they didn't use it.
I know, that's fucking crazy. I think that movie would have made $3 billion if it had that title.
Yeah.
And then Ghost Protocol. Oh, not Ghost Protocol. Mission Impossible. See, I say Ghost Protocol because that's the one I like the most. Mm-hmm. Mission Impossible's like 8th movie is gonna have a different title now. Mm-hmm. So, Dead Reckoning Part 1 is just gonna be Dead Reckoning, even though it's in the movie as Part 1.
I've got a title they could use for the last one.
What?
Dead on Arrival. Oh, boom! Got him.
Yeah. Everyone definitely likes those movies because of the ongoing saga narrative, and not because the action's sick.
You joke, but people have tried to make Ethan Hunt like this, like totemic figure, and
I'm on film Twitter. I've seen it,
and I'm just like, no, like I get the action, like the action's good, but not like Ethan Hunt is a boring fuck, like.
People like Ethan Hunt because normal general audiences still like Tom Cruise when he's in that mode.
Yeah.
That's what that is. And that's okay. Sorry. It's not that deep. Now, where it is maybe not that much deeper, but a little more deep, is with the Bad Boys movies. We've talked a little bit about Michael Bay before.
I think these are deeply reflective of their lead actors. Like, each movie is reflective of where they were in their career at that time, right? Like,
yeah,
I which is partly what makes it so interesting, but we'll talk more about that. But this is the first one is Michael Bay's film debut, right?
Yep.
Can't tell by watching.
Sure is. Oh, you think it's a confident debut?
No, not at all.
Oh, really?
I think it's one of the weakest debut movies I've ever seen.
Oh no! Back in like early 2020, I guest starred on the Sleazoids podcast. They had me on for Bad Boys 2 before Bad Boys for Life came out, and I called it Michael Bay's Star Wars, and it's not nearly as good or as refined, but I do think it has the same level of like, oh, this changes the game quality to it.
No.
You don't think so?
I think
okay.
I would argue that the Rock and Armageddon are the ones that are like, okay, he this is the game changer right here, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
those two back to back are really what do it. I think Bad Boys is the one thing about Bad Boys is it. How do I explain this? So many of the visual ideas in Bad Boys, and this is just the benefit of living, with Michael Bay for fucking 20 plus years now, right? 30 years now, Jesus Christ. Um,
Mm-hmm.
all the visual ideas in Bad Boys he has repeated because he repeats himself a lot, and he's done it a lot better basically everywhere else, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and unfortunately, what he is stuck with in terms of the plot of Bad Boys is really, really down the line knockoff of other better buddy cop movies of that era. It's like the tail end of the buddy cop thing, right? Like, and
Yeah.
this is like it feels like one of the weakest attempts to recreate the Shane Black formula. It in terms of the script, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I think it's just incredible, and it doesn't. If I wonder if this was like Michael Bay's only movie, and we just threw it on, I wonder if I would be more impressed. You know, being like, oh, whoever
Mm-hmm.
directed this had like an interesting visual flair. But because I know where Michael Bay goes, and because we're so far removed from it, I don't think it has. I think it has the building blocks of what he was going for, but like I don't think any of it congeals well. And I mean, it barely congeals well in his later films, I would argue, depending on the movie. But this is I think a very it feels like a first time movie, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it just feels like look at all the visual panache I can do, but also he's like it's just not there yet. It's just not there. And like I said, and then what it does have is just derivative. So I think that hurts Bad Boys a little bit. Um,
I do think the first film is a little okay. It's derivative. I'm not going to softball it.
yeah.
Like it just is. Um, it's also like the cheapest movie he ever made. Like even with inflation,
hmm
I think it is the cheapest film he's ever made. Um, and I was talking to a friend of the podcast, Jorge Suarez, over lunch, and like we were reminiscing about Bay's career and trajectory because we're excited for the new Bad Boys, and he brought up a good point where it's like Bad Boys is like that's the kid who gets to play in the candy shop for a little bit,
hmm
right? By the time you get to Bad Boys 2, it's like this is what I can do with a budget. This is what I can do with all the money in the world. Fucking flipping off God, walking backwards into hell.
hmm
Like, we'll get there. We'll get there. I do want to talk about the first one, but I don't know. I still find it very impressive for what he was able to pull off. Like, yeah, it is a bunch of like money shots, action shots, like, but that is also like his thing. Maybe it's just like a smaller version of it, which is why it's less
Well,
impressive in
yeah,
hindsight.
and I'm just not like I'm not as into the Bayhem thing as other people, right? Like I get it,
Mm-hmm.
I get why people like it, but I'm not as into it. So maybe for me it would be like watching, fucking Ray Harryhausen special effects of being like, oh wow, this is where that stuff started, like. But it
Yeah.
doesn't have that vibe for me. And then I
Mm-hmm.
just said like, look, I watched this movie like 3 days ago. I don't remember what the fuck happened in it. Like I it's yeah. Um, what's the
Well,
pl-
I can explain what happens to it
the only thing
or in it.
the only thing I remember is that like the only thing I can say off the top of my head is the whole stupid that they swap identities thing, which
Mm-hmm.
is like it's so tired and boring and frustrating and it's like the centerpiece of the plot is that they're lying about who they are. And like it's like, oh, we're swapping lives for a little bit. It feels like it was something that was brought in like at an earlier stage of writing, and then as the script evolved, it just stuck around, even though it doesn't congeal with what they were ultimately going for. Like it feels like that maybe was the pitch initially of the movie. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what if bad boys, but they swap lives? It's like trading places, but with cops. And then it's like, well, that's not what the movie is. Like, but it's still there.
Yeah.
So like the fact that so much of the movie like hinged on that definitely hurt it for me in terms of just enjoying it. Um, but Let's look at.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because do you know who this movie was originally developed for, like, in mind?
Was it Landis?
No, for the lead roles,
Oh
excuse
no,
me, I
no.
should say.
Oh, it was comedy guys, right? Like I don't remember who, but it was gonna be like more comedy guys. I mean, that's
It was gonna be embarrassingly comedy guys. Dana Carvey and John Lovitz.
I mean, hey, I would love
That's
I would
like,
love to see that.
I mean, I would have loved to see Michael Bay direct them.
They should
I
show
don't.
up in one of these movies as just like two other cops that have been having their own adventures. Because remember when Lovett shows up
That's
in
so fucking funny.
yeah, remember when Lovett shows up in
Yes.
Southland Tales
Oh yeah. Great movie.
as a cop?
Psychotic
He just
film.
walks in. He talks like Steven Seagal for some reason, and he's just like, it's fucking Lovett. It's like, hey, I don't even remember what he says, but it's such a weird scene. But you know
I
what?
mean, that's a good way to describe that
But
movie.
this is also hindsight 2020. They did get two comedy guys for this because
Yeah.
at the time this is coming out, it's like the tail end of fucking Fresh Prince, right? And
Mhm.
also like the middle of Martin. You know, that's where both these guys were at the time, right? Like
Mhm.
it's so they still clearly were trying to make comedies, and up to this point, look at Martin Lawrence. He's done nothing but comedies, right? Like
Mhm.
he's done nothing but comedies up until the release of Bad Boys. And then Will Smith. We just got to talk. This is Will Smith has a very interesting career. This is post 6 Degrees of Separation, but before Independence Day and Men in Black, right? So
Yeah.
they're both in very interesting places in their career. So it's interesting that it was very much made to be. You can tell it was kind of made to be a comedy, and then it became what would become the formula for a Michael Bay action movie, right? Like
Mhm. At least aesthetically.
yeah, and it's an interesting like weird beast of a movie. But I just found too much of it dragged, right? Like there's too much fat on it,
Mhm.
of just stuff that doesn't work. And by that I mean Taya Leone. But
No.
look, I love
No.
Taya Leone. She doesn't need to be in this movie.
Yeah, she does. Not to be piggish, but yeah, she does.
All right, I look
This
whatever. She looks
this was a big movie for me
look
growing up.
she looks fine, but no.
That is softballing it to like an atomic degree, but okay,
And
whatever.
Taya Leone, you know what? You become numb to the objectification of women in these movies because they're all objectified.
You know what? That's
Right?
it. Yeah,
That's really what it is. Because I was trying to be like, because I'm remembering scenes and I'm like, was that her or was that nameless background woman? Like, but Taya Leone weird career and didn't really. She hasn't worked since in a movie since 2011.
I wonder why.
Well, she was doing that. She was Madam Secretary. That show.
Oh yeah,
That was on for 5 years, and she has a movie coming up. Oh, she's in Death of a Unicorn. Oh, all right, it's something different. Doesn't look good though. She's in some movie, but like, yeah, she's got a weird film career where it's like Wyatt Earp, which is the other Wyatt Earp movie from 1994. Bad Boys, Flirting with Disaster, which I've never seen. And then Deep Impact, one of the worst movies ever made. The Family Man, and then Jurassic Park 3. What a weird run.
That is a weird run, but Jurassic Park 3 is fun. For like a B monster movie, that's like
No,
solid.
yeah, Jurassic Park 3 totally works, but it's also one where it's like, who can we get, right? Like,
Yeah.
it is not a like,
Yeah.
it is not a let's get some big names and put them in the movie. It's like, you know who was kind of famous once? Tia Leone.
Yeah.
And,
But you know what? You brought up Death of a Unicorn. Like whatever that movie. I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Hopefully it's good. You know who's doing the score for that, right?
no. Oh,
John Carpenter.
John Carpenter. Okay. All right.
Yeah. So I'm gonna watch that movie.
Well, I'll listen to the soundtrack at least.
Okay.
Uh,
Let me see some more stuff about the Bad Boys. Arsenio Hall turned down the role of Mike Lowry, and he's like, yeah, that's the worst decision I've ever made in my
Arsenio
life.
Hall,
But I'll say this, like,
Arsenio Hall has like 7 of those though. Like Arsenio Hall is
yeah,
famously turned down like so many things that like, including walking away from his own talk show at like its peak. But
hmm
you know, Arsenio would have been fine. Like,
yeah, he would have been. This is the thing. He's great. I love him. He should have another talk show. His shit keeps getting canceled. But he's a. I think he's a great host.
yeah,
He's not Will Smith in this.
No.
This is the movie that makes Will Smith a star.
Yeah.
There's the scene you watch him become a movie star in that chase scene.
hmm
Like it's very rare you see the birth of something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, what are like the moments where people become like, oh fuck, that's like a movie star now.
Well, I mean, there's I think the famous example is the zoom in on John Wayne in Stagecoach, right?
Yeah, that was my backup answer.
Everyone knows that, right? Like,
Yeah.
of just
Yeah.
this guy arrives fully formed as a movie star. But although John Wayne had been trying to become a movie star for about a decade at that point,
Yeah, but hey, when it works, it works.
yeah, including almost drowning on the set of Noah's Ark.
I mean,
Hey, gotta love Hollywood.
yeah.
Well,
Notoriously cool and chill John Wayne.
yeah. Well, it's also funny that this is such a Will Smith, like the beginnings of Will Smith being like, I have something to prove, right? Like
hmm
Will Smith in his weird like, I need to be a badass, like, which will become this thing that kind of hangs over his career, because he was, he was one of the first hip hop guys, but like he was the guy being like, hey kids, hip hop can be safe and fun, right? Like,
hmm
and then gangster rap comes in and just decimates him. Like him and MC Hammer, right? Just get totally washed away. Like even Run DMC, which wasn't like kid friendly, but like they couldn't keep up with gangster rap. And
hmm
I think Will Smith has always had a bit of a chip on his shoulder because of it. And they work it into the plot with him being born rich, right? Like that
Yeah.
is such a reference to like you're the fucking Fresh Prince of Bel Air, motherfucker. Like you want us to expect us to believe you're a hardened cop? Like that's bullshit. But which adds to the interesting meta text to it, because that comes in and out of the whole franchise, I would argue.
hmm
Um,
Yeah. Not so much the recent ones, but the first two,
I would argue,
especially the second
I would
one.
argue the third one saw into the future somehow. We'll talk about that when we get there.
Yes, we will talk about the third one in a bit. There's another movie that came out not too far from it that's shockingly similar as well, but
Yeah.
we'll get there. We'll get there. This first movie I want to touch on a little bit more. I think there's also just like there's this funny element that we talked about already with the life swapping thing, right?
Mhm.
I think the big criticism of that, or one of the big criticisms of that, is that it's like, well, that feels like an idea for a sequel, not so much a first movie, because you want to get to know the characters in the first movie, right? I'm actually kind of cool with it. I don't think it all works very well, and like a lot of this movie is a lot of improv, because like Michael Bay didn't give a shit about
no
the script.
shit, no shit.
And yeah. I mean, you could tell,
Yeah.
right? This is maybe this isn't the first movie to have done it, but I think it's one of the ones that establishes like, look, the script isn't perfect, but like we got these stars, so let's like we got these guys in lead roles that are comedy guys. Let them riff for a little bit. They'll come up with something good. They're good at this, and to be fair, I think they are. Like
Yeah,
these aren't like deep characters, but they're so charming together.
But Bay is very bad at setting up character archetypes in weird ways. Like in terms of like, because you're like there needed to be a scene in this. They try, right? Like they try their best to be like, he's rich, he's not, right? Like that they have two different lifestyles, but they don't have like Michael Bay's just not skilled enough at setting up that kind of thing, as opposed to they're already in the middle of an action scene driving and talking about like what type of car they have and shit like that, like and like he can do that kind of stuff. Michael Bay's big move is like, a character goes, I'm gonna reach out to my cousin. Now he's kind of crazy. And then you meet the character, and he's like the most insane character you've ever seen in any movie, and then like he just acts bizarre for 5 minutes. Like that's Michael Bay's way of setting up characters. I just don't. He's just not interested in it, right? Like he's
Hmm.
just like, yeah, we got the rich house because it'll be funny if the dog shits on the carpet. Like it's
Yeah.
he's
Like, and look, this is how smart I am. Just the mention of that, I was like, yeah, that's funny.
no,
Like,
he's not wrong, right? Like he's not wrong, but also he
yeah.
is not. He's a Michael Bay is a funny director, but he is not a comedy director, right? Like I
Hmm.
think Michael Bay can be very funny. I mean, fucking our introduction to our protagonist in Armageddon is him going on a violent rampage trying to murder someone for sleeping with his daughter. Like that is the introduction to the man we are going to be spending the rest of the movie with, right? Him firing a shotgun around an oil tanker. Like it's one of the most insane ways to try and introduce a character, and it's very funny. But I just, in terms of like comic archetypes, I don't think he's very good at other than the incredibly broad, right? And you can
Hmm.
still work with that. I think there's a reason why he likes the Coen brothers so much because the Coen brothers do similarly broad characters, right? The
Yeah.
Coen Brothers thing is just like when those broad characters get shot, it's horrifying. But like Michael Bay's like when people get shot, it's fucking awesome. Like it's you've never seen anything cooler than a guy getting shot. Like
Well, Bay coming from the commercial background, the music video background, like he's like you only have a short amount of time, like 30 seconds for commercials, 3 minutes for a music video, right? Like you gotta make it as impactful as possible. And then like when he transposes those to feature films for 90-minute movies, maybe it's like awesome. And when it's 3 hours
you,
after a writer's strike, perhaps in 2009, it
yeah,
might be a little
you
much,
run into
you
some
know?
problems at a certain point. Yeah, if that's the type
Yeah.
of movie you're trying to make.
Although I will say, and maybe I brought it up on Mike already, but whatever, it's worth mentioning. Because this does tie into like my reaction to watching Bad Boys again. Watching Transformers 2 again for the first time in easily over a decade, I was like, you know what? I I'm not just shooting the shit. I think some of us maybe didn't realize how good we had it special effects wise
I, I,
in
I'm
2009.
gonna run you over with a
Um,
steamroller. I'm com-
no, and look,
I'm driving. I'm taking a steamroller from the East Coast, driving it all the way to the West Coast, and when you least suspect it, your wall is gonna come down, and that
no,
steamroller is
I
gonna
am
come right
I'm not
through it.
done. I'm not done. There's look that movie has. I'm not a script watcher guy by any means, but you physically cannot keep up with what's happening in the movie. But I'm like, this fucking looks like good all the way through. And then you get to that last hour because I saw it with a group of friends again. We were on vacation, just a little weekend getaway, and we were kind of like hooked in. And then like that last hour hits, and it's just noise. It's like half an hour later, like they're still trying to accomplish the same goal of an action scene half an hour prior,
It's a
and we're like, okay, this is why no one likes this movie. This is fucking rough.
um.
It is impossible to sit through.
I also maybe had other problems with that movie.
Oh no, that movie's got a bunch of other
Maybe
problems. Like I'm not saying
maybe
like, oh, it's some underrated thing.
the gold toothed Transformers.
Oh,
Maybe
I'm not saying it's
maybe rubbed
perfect.
me the wrong way. Uh,
I'm specifically talking about like the direction and the special effects and the action, but that last hour is unforgivable. I'm like, yeah, this is why we tossed this one aside.
Also, there's a
But
guy in it
watching,
who's just there to yell. Like he's just
oh
scared
yeah, he
all.
does.
He's just scared all the time.
Oh, that's Will Trent from the hit ABC procedural.
Right. I knew that.
Yeah,
He just,
I don't know. I know people are watching that. It's apparently good,
he
so
just
I just wanted to
doesn't. He's
mention
just
that.
not in the other ones, right? Like
Yeah, they were like, I don't know. You know what? I do kind of miss that when franchises would like, if a character didn't work, they'd be like, oh, we just pretend they never were
yeah.
here, or don't mention them ever
You
again.
know that was
And
supposed
it's
to
like
be Jonah Hill.
that's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my
Yeah,
life.
it was
Actually,
supposed to be Jonah Hill, and it was like really close. And like I heard an interview with him. This is before Jonah Hill got kind of canceled, and I heard an interview with him where he was basically like his reps were really pressuring him to do it because of the amount of money he would get. And he's like, I don't want to be in front of a fucking green screen for that long. Like, he's like, I don't want to do, like, and he backed out like really last minute. So. That's also the one with like Rainn Wilson shows up in that, right? At like peak The Office.
Yeah, he plays like a sleazy college professor, and it's just like, why is this here? Look, I'm not defending the sanctity of that movie. I was just like, if you want to take like the good stuff in this movie and compile it into a 15-minute YouTube video, I think it'd be a pretty entertaining 15 minutes.
That's now. I've said that about other movies where I'm like, yeah, there's a good like edit of this movie, but like to me. That's my criticism of Top Gun Maverick, right? Like I think this good stuff in it you could condense to like a 30-minute YouTube video, right? I don't think the rest of the narrative.
I like that movie a lot more than you.
Yeah.
I'm just not like 5 stars swinging off the banister.
Yeah, but I'm saying
what I mean?
there's not.
I think it works as a feature film.
Yes, it should work. It's a movie, but it's one where like when I'm talking about like what is actually like okay, that's why you go see a movie like this. It maybe is down to less than 30 minutes. It's not this plate juggling masterpiece people seem to talk about it as. But
no, it's got a good beginning, a good middle, and a good end.
Actually,
and people were like, "This is the greatest movie ever made."
I kind of don't like the Miles Teller behind enemy lines part of it. But that was also like I was so tapped out of the movie by that point. I was kind of just like, let's just wrap this up. Like
when they're back in the air, I mean, it's not that long of a sequence. It's really like just like a little cherry on top of the finale.
It felt long.
Look, that movie doesn't need defending. It won the war already, against the Magaringos of the world. But like, look, I think your hangups are a little long.
It won the battle but lost the war because they thought that would translate into Dead Reckoning Part 1. They thought they were going to hit lightning twice with fucking Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Dead Reckoning Part 1 fucking belly flopped. But... Well,
look, let me get back to the point I was making. Transformers 2 visually impressed the shit out of everyone. I showed the first Bad Boys to a couple friends that had never seen it before, some that had, and some that hadn't seen it in a long time. And the one thing we were all kind of like latching on to immediately was like, hey, those fucking the blinds in these night scenes are like really billowing. They're billowing the shit out of these blinds, and it was just like, oh my god, every fucking inch of this set is incredible. Every inch of this movie just looks like you're in a fucking music video. And it looks so good. And it's just there is something to just making a movie look way better than it needs to look. You know what I mean?
I'm not disagreeing.
I mean, like, because we've talked about like Beverly Hills Cop before, and you're not a big fan of those movies.
Well, I'm not a big fan of the first one. Like the first one is like I kind of don't get why people love it so much, Yeah. But then it's like Tony Scott takes over the second one, and you're like, yeah, right on. And then the third one is a disaster. But
But I think the difference is entirely from the first and third one is in the directors. And look, God bless Martin Brest. Midnight Run is one of my all-time favorite movies.
Same.
I love that movie. Yeah. Not the most stylistically inclined director, and that works perfectly for something like Midnight Run.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop. It's a little like, okay, you're letting Eddie Murphy take the lead on this, and that's what you do.
And also, like, I think like this movie, Beverly Hills Cop. Watching it now, we have the benefit of like looking at Eddie Murphy's whole career, right? And then all the people that tried to imitate Beverly Hills Cop, And so like whatever specialness it hit with initially is a little bit lost, right? So I just think but that's what's weird about Bad Boys is that the specialness of this is the beginning of Michael Bay's career, right? It's the beginning of Michael Bay's career, it's the beginning of Will Smith's career. You could maybe argue the beginning of Martin Lawrence's career, but he never kind of gets out of that comedy pocket, right? Like he's kind of just, he's his own thing, but it's definitely the beginning of Smith and Bay. But what else it is like it's like the last of that era of action movie, right? Like it is the last of the buddy cop movie, in terms of like the mainstream successful buddy cop movie. Is there one after it that is a huge hit that I'm missing? Like there are certainly buddy movies, but I can't think of one that came after it that was like, and then became like a franchise starter.
No, I can't think of any either. It's like there may be some that tried to be, but they either didn't work or like are the nice guys, and they're like everyone wanted it to start a
Yeah,
franchise, you know?
yeah. You get like those kind of throwbacky ones, but nothing that actually starts a franchise. And then I think you move into, and I think Michael Bay's career kind of points to where the action genre goes with something like, The Rock and
Hmm.
Armageddon. And then you get, like Con Air is like thrown in there somewhere. You get John Woo's kind of ascending at this time, right? Like
Hmm.
in terms of his American films. Um, that's where the shift starts to happen in terms of action movies. I was actually thinking about this with Terminator 2. I had never clocked it until recently. And I feel so stupid that like the battle of Arnold versus the Robert Patrick is a metaphor for the shift in the action genre at the time, right?
Ah,
Like
uh-huh.
Art, like back when Arnold starts, it's about we have to get a guy who looks like he can carry an action movie. You have to get a muscle guy. His acting comes secondary, right? And then the
Hmm.
new era becomes about like, well, now we can get a good actor and put them in the action role, right? And because Robert Patrick's a more classically trained actor than Arnold, so like that's really the battle there. And I think it says a lot that that's kind of the peak of Arnold's career. And then at the end of the movie, he self-immolates. Like it's a very weird like it kind of calls where that shift is coming. And so I think that like we're beginning to see this where like now you can just take average guys and put them in action movies, right? Like it's that's we're beginning to see more of that. I mean, when's Face Off? Is Face Off this year or the year after? Um,
I think Face Off is 97.
is it that much after? Uh,
Yeah, 97.
okay, so it's like 2 years later, and
So
that's
2 years.
and that's like two actors are the action leads, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not Face Off Arnold versus Schwarzenegger, right? Like it
Yeah,
is.
it's two actors with like a director who's arguably becoming a star. Like
Yeah.
people knew fucking John Woo by that point
Hmm.
there too. So it's like it's that culmination, this trifecta of stardom
Hmm.
in a way.
I guess Broken Arrow is the other one too. Like that is Travolta and Slater, right? Like
Yeah.
not.
Oh my, you gotta watch. Did you ever watch
No,
it?
yeah, I saw it. I saw it. I did like a John Woo.
Okay.
I sat down when I was like, I think when I was at COVID, I sat down and watched like a bunch of John Woo movies, and so I
Okay. I fucking
filled in my
yeah.
blind
I think that
spots.
movie is kind of underrated.
No, well, John Woo, I feel more in the pocket of John Woo than Bay when it comes to like maybe the plots aren't always there, but like goddamn, he can fucking make an action scene, like
Yeah.
and
Like I think I mentioned it with the last movie he did. I
oh,
don't even remember John Woo's last movie.
Silent Night, right?
Silent, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Where I'm like, yeah, he's kind of directing the shit out of this, but he's killing a lot of brown people are
yeah,
getting fucked
that
up.
movie's got
It's
that movie's
like,
got some problems, but like Face
but
Off,
he still got it.
but
Is the
he
point?
also I think he has more of a sense of humor about the material he's working with, right? Like
Hmm.
Face Off is
Yeah,
literally a movie about faces coming off. Like that's
yeah,
hysterical that was a
yeah. No,
movie.
and then like, so when you get to Mission Impossible 2, like, sorry,
Yeah.
I think John Woo is actually important to
No,
Bay
no,
as a
no. I
director in
agree. I
Bad Boys.
agree.
Um, yeah, and Mission Impossible 2, people are like, it's so goofy, and it's like, yeah, what the have you? First of all, Mission Impossible is very fucking goofy,
Yeah.
and John Woo, like you said, has a sense of humor about
Mhm.
himself. Like, sorry, it's some people still think that's like the worst one, and I don't know how you think that at this point. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
I
but
don't know either.
yeah,
Especially with Dead Reckoning out there. Got him again.
I'm not kicking that hornet's
Got
nest,
him
but you're not
again.
wrong. Yeah,
I
but
liked
like
fucking what was the one before it? Rogue Nation? Is that the one?
Fallout,
Fallout.
Fallout,
Fallout.
yeah.
I liked Fallout. So it's not the director that I have a problem with. It's
Yeah, I like all the ones before it. I was upset that I didn't like the one that was during it.
yeah, it's so weird.
Yeah,
That's a weird movie.
but John Woo, also very stylistically inclined director and friend of the show, Cameron Carpenter, excellent writer in his own right and director. He once brought up that like Michael Bay is probably the closest thing we have to like an American John Woo in terms of just like the bombast, and like the excess, because
Yeah.
I think John Woo maybe puts a little more thought into how he's constructing that excess,
No kidding.
but
Um,
yeah,
yeah,
but it is pure
I
id,
was gonna say John Woo is Michael Bay without the hate, without the overriding hate for humanity in it. I think
maybe,
I think
probably.
John Woo does genuinely like the characters he's working with, and
Yeah, I mean that's why fucking Hard Boiled. Like I know that's a harder movie to track down now. Just however you can watch it, watch it. There's a whole bunch of fucking fucked up right shit with that movie,
yeah,
but that's like a viciously violent action movie with sequences that go on for like half an hour long, and like hundreds of people drop dead in that movie. But it's also like, man, it's about the toll that this is all taking on these two men,
yeah,
on these blurred lines between law and criminality. But it's also like got this really upbeat soundtrack whenever like they're in a happy, like it's so bizarre. But like, yeah, that's a dude who loves the people he's making movies about.
yeah,
Where Michael Bay might think some people are a little dopey, like the characters in Bad Boys.
yeah. It'd be funny if everyone thinks they're gay.
Oh, yeah, that pops up a lot.
In the first one, it pops up a lot too. Like we'll get more into it with the second one, where like that's
Yeah.
just straight up subtext. But like it's interesting that seems to be one of his go tos. Is I mean that to be fair, that is that era of just like
Hmm.
is there anything funnier than two guys possibly being gay? Like, is there anything funnier than the existence of gay people, which was like peak comedy from like 1990 until 2010, right? Like,
Hmm.
Happy Pride Month, by the way.
Oh, yeah, happy Pride Month, everyone.
I mean, is Bad Boys come out? Is it this weekend? Is it the beginning of Pride Month?
Yep.
Well,
Oh my
all
God.
right.
Comrade Jerry Bruckheimer.
Well, also we gotta remember that Will Smith was also one of those guys like Tom Cruise, where like he was really defensive about being called gay, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of that, and which never be that guy, even if no matter where you fall, because everyone's just going to assume you're gay for the rest of your life, right? Like
Yeah.
those rumors have dogged Tom Cruise forever, and they've dogged Will Smith forever since then. Like it's just yeah. So um, who knows?
I think going to an all boys private Catholic school, I had trouble with that, and then by the end of that, no one had trouble with that, and then it steered into blatant homophobia at one point. But thankfully, we all outgrew. Most of us outgrew that.
Yeah.
I won't. I'm not going to go to bat for everyone I went to school with. But like
Now I got it.
I think that helped me shed
Look,
that.
you
Thankfully.
you opened this door though. Like,
All right, let's do
did
it.
anyone turn out to be gay?
Yeah.
All right, right on.
And I there was a lot of very poor tasting jokes
No, look.
thrown at a person,
Yeah.
and so I apologized later in life because I was like it didn't know, but it was wrong at the time. Like it's stupid, immature shit. No excuse.
No.
But
Yeah, but also
they were very accepting of that.
it was
Thankfully,
just
and I
widely
very lucky.
homophobia was just widely accepted for a huge stretch of time, right? Like it was.
Oh
just,
yeah.
Like, and as someone who's like always been progressive, like even I would like lean into it a little bit, right? Like it's just
Mhm.
it was just that was just the fucking times. It's one of those things where like when I look back on that, it's like it's cringe, but it's also like things really can turn around fairly quickly. Like things really can get better a lot quicker than
Yeah, I mean,
we give it
fucking
credit.
like 15 years ago, like, there's just like, especially like Latino communities and stuff like that. You'd always hear stuff like, "Oh, yeah, that's gay fool,"
Yeah.
like, and that would be like That's there's no thought put into that
Mhm.
vernacular. It's just like, yeah, that's what that is. Negative connotation to someone's identity.
I remember
used in a manner that is not reflective of that identity or involving that identity in any way. It's just like, yeah, it's good that we're moving past that.
I distinctly remember. I'm not even kidding. I remember fourth grade. I was in line with another, like you line up as kids, and someone walked past us, and the kid behind me in line said, that person, whatever the name was, is so gay. And I was like, haha, yeah. And I was like, what does gay mean? And then they're like, it means when a boy likes a boy. And I was like, oh, wow, that's strange. How could that ever happen? You know, we all change.
Yeah.
I had to learn some things about myself as well. So, oh, the fucking George Bush, fuck that asshole. Like, he made all that shit so, like, front and center. Like, what a dick. Remember he tried, like,
Yeah, fuck George Bush.
like, he literally tried to get an amendment in the Constitution banning gay marriage. Like,
yeah, fuck that
it
guy.
came, like, really close, too. Like, I think we forget that one. That was, like, peak Bush being like, you fuckers are gonna let me get away with anything. Like, he was like, you fuckers are gonna let me do anything. And, like, that was the moment where, like, you know what? We're gonna start drawing some lines. A little too late in the game, but...
George Bush will come up again in this conversation.
100% he will.
Yeah. I think I can kind of wrap up on the first Bad Boys if you don't have like a lot more to add.
All right, well, let's just go down who else is in the goddamn thing.
I would love to.
So, you go, because these are your boys.
Okay. All right. Teresa Randall as Teresa Burnett. She reappears in every Bad Boys except Bad Boys 4, which I'm assuming was just a scheduling conflict, because it's an open like discussion. Everyone knows this movie had like an insanely fast turnaround. I'm sure she just couldn't fit it into her stuff. I don't think there's any disputes or whatever, but I was bummed that she didn't come back because I love the recurring cast in these movies. Where's my boy? Joey Pantoliano as Captain Conrad Howard. This man was born for this role. He was born to play Cypher in The Matrix and born to play an angry police captain in Bad Boys.
And Ralph on The Sopranos, like one of the
Ralph on The Sopranos,
worst, one of like the lowest scumbags ever to be on The Sopranos. All right, can I ask you something about his performance though?
Sure.
Do you get the sense that he is playing this character like the guy he's playing feels obligated to be the angry police chief? Like, what I'm saying is, like, I'm not, this isn't a criticism, by the way. Like, I'm not...
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
I'm saying that, like, every time he enters the frame, it feels like he was just psyching himself up for 5 minutes off camera, right? Like, he's like, I got a meeting with those two fuckers again. Like, all right, I gotta yell at them. Like, I'm not, like, you get the sense that when it's his normal day-to-day life, he's not a yeller, right? Like, that, I mean, they go to his house in the second one, he's pretty chill considering what's going on.
I was gonna say, yeah, there's a fun inversion of that later.
So, like, you get the sense that maybe he's just like they need me to be this guy, right? That they need me to come in and be like, you dumb fucks, like they won't do their best work unless I'm that, you know? Which could be a metaphor for Michael Bay's directing style.
Maybe. I mean, it's. I was gonna say it's like Abed in Community when Annie and Shirley become like security guards at the school, and they keep fucking stuff up, and he's like coaching the dean how to talk to them. He's like, "You just got off the phone with the mayor." I just got off the phone with the mayor. What the mayor? What? What are you talking about? He's like, "No, you're doing it wrong." Like, "Oh, fine. Why don't you do it?" And then Abed just bursts into like, he's basically playing the police chief from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
It's so funny.
I just wonder if that was a conscious choice on Joey Pants's part, because it feels kind of conscious, and I think it helps. I think it works, because he ends up... It's one of those where, like, this is, like, peak of that character, just being in these type of movies, like the angry police chief, and he adds enough to it that it makes it a little better, right?
I never thought of it that way, but I think there's something to that now. Let's see, who else is in the movie that we gotta mention? I want to mention another Sopranos alum, Michael Imperioli, Jojo.
Yes, Jojo. All right, here's what I'm talking about, where I don't know what the plot of this movie was. What was his significance?
He's an informant. They just go to him whenever the plot needs them to get back to the plot
They
again.
threatened to like shoot him. Like I remember that.
No, Will Smith threatens to Will Smith threatens to shoot everybody.
Yeah.
Which is part of his charm in these movies.
But it's also like I just it doesn't it is one of those like there's so many characters like that where it's like he's the guy you go to talk to about this and like there's no logic to it, right? There's just like he's just there to fill that functionary and then we just move on from it really quickly. And who else we got in this? Kevin Corrigan shows up for like 2 seconds.
Yeah. He just popped up and stuff. He still just pops up and stuff. And but I love him. I think he's terrific. I love seeing him pop up and stuff. I want to shout out John Saley as Fletcher, the hacker, because he pops up a lot. He pops up in the new one again. I believe he is not in the third one, from what I remember, unless I'm just forgetting a pivotal scene of the movie. But he pops up again, and then I was like, Fuck
I don't remember him in the third either.
Yeah. Although he even pops up in like the spin-off show LA's Finest, which is about Gabrielle Union's character in LA.
I did not even know that was a spin-off.
Yeah, apparently no one watched it, so apologies. I should have been in the bag for that. I didn't see it either.
Yeah,
I'm
sounds
sorry.
like most people didn't care. He's in Black Dynamite?
Wait, what?
He's in Black Dynamite.
Is he?
Yeah, he's Kotex, one of the pimps at the pimp council scene.
I gotta rewatch Black Dynamite. It's been so long, but that is one of the funniest movies ever made.
One of the funniest movies ever made. Like, no joke. It's one of those where I think I quote it all the time. But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community, which might be
that's
one of the best line deliveries of all time. But
that might be the greatest, honestly. Like, no joke. No joke.
It's such an earnest response too. Like it's like he didn't get it. Like I warn anyone says drugs on me. But Black Dynamite, I sell drugs to the community. And then he's all like apologetic to Black Dynamite for the rest of the scene. It's that's a brilliant movie. Here's something I was thinking about watching this. We're talking about like they don't make movies on this scale anymore and shit like that, right? Which is true. I really wish, like, because they're rebooting The Naked Gun right now, right? Like, with, I don't even know who. But I want a Naked Gun movie with the budget of a Bad Boys, right? And we're doing that kind of insane comedy on that scale, right? Like, that's what I really want. I want to see something like that. Black Dynamite is like the closest we get. And Black Dynamite, like I love that movie, but it looks like it had a budget of maybe $30. So like...
yeah, which ends up being part of its charm. No. But like I get what you're saying, and I completely agree. Like I hope the new Naked Gun, the cast is like perfect for that.
Who's in it?
Because like the jokes of those are straight laced, you know. But like
who's in it?
I hope it works.
I can't remember. I know we've talked about it, but who's
Liam Neeson?
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Neeson is
we're gonna ignore everything going on in the real world with him. Otherwise, he's perfect.
Did more happen with him?
No, I think he just came out in support of Israel.
Oh, all right. Well, unfortunately, we're gonna be drawing a line on like 50% of Hollywood at this point. Like, that sucks. But
yeah. Who else is in it? Paul Walter Hauser, Danny Houston, CCH Pounder. Mm-hmm. CCH Pounder is what sold me on it when I was like, oh, these guys might know what they're doing.
Yeah,
you know,
that could be. Yeah, it could be good. I want to see it. Although we have to keep Zucker from talking at all. Like he's another one of those guys who's like on right wing. So, I got to ask though. The Fletcher character, the hacker. Did they just abandon that he was a criminal in this one? Like, did they just never bring that up again?
No. That so in this first one, he's in the orange jumpsuit and everything. The second one, he's got a job at the department, right? Mm-hmm. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, the second one, he's like got a job. Like they're like I get it, like that they would do that, right? To keep him around and be like, we need a hacker character. Let's just say that this guy was so good at hacking, we made him a cop, right?
Yeah.
because
I know, like, legally in the real world, you can't get a job at the station like that or whatever. And I don't care. But he does, when he pops back up in the fourth one, there is a bit about like, oh, well, Captain Howard helped me turn my life around. So now I'm into art and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it's like, okay, that's there to backtrack and explain his appearance again.
I just wondered if they dropped that. Because, like, that really is only there. The gag there is that, like, he's sitting down when they start yelling at him, and then he stands up and is, like, a fucking, like, twice as tall as Martin Lawrence, right? Like, it's a good visually constructed moment in the movie.
I'm gonna ask my friend if I can share this. I'm gonna cut it out if not. But I didn't realize I ran into him at the Bad Boys 4 premiere. We were getting our drinks and popcorn, and my friend had this really nice dress on, but it's a little flowy, and so I guess he stepped on it like when his back was towards us, right? I just see a very tall man there, and then she kind of tugs at it, and then he looks around and he looks down at us because we are not very tall people, and he was like, "What are you guys doing down there?"
Oh, what a good sense. Oh, that's
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
No, he that was cool. I should have geeked out or something, but maybe it's better that I didn't.
Now I've been in a similar moment where I'm suddenly realize I'm next to someone famous and they say something to me and all I can do is go, ah.
Yeah.
You know what the weirdest one for me was? Just if you just want to know my stupidity, I've talked about this. I worked on the Penn Jillette movie director's cut, and it was a break between I was at craft service. I'm sitting down, and people are just talking to people, and I realize someone's sitting next to me, and like I clock them, and I like recognize them, and I look away. Then I realize I look back, it's fucking Randy Pitchford of Gearbox Software is sitting right next to me. And I just blurt out, "You're Randy Pitchford." And he goes, "Yeah." And he's like, "Have you played any of our games?" And I just go, "No." Like right to his face. And he was like, "Oh, okay." I didn't want to be like, "Yeah, I played Aliens Colonial Marines. You remember how that turned out." Like, I didn't want to do that. So,
yeah.
But it was such a strange moment. So that, like, I just killed the conversation right there with him, right? Like, he was really personable, but then I was just like, "Have you played anything?" It's like, "No." So.
That's too bad.
But. Weird moment.
All right. Yeah. I guess to some other Bad Boy stuff. Sean Tube is in this, and he's great. Unfortunately, he just seems to get bit parts and stuff nowadays, or always. But he's always game, and he's always good. It's unfortunate the
type of
the roles he has to take sometimes.
Type of casting he gets. What are you gonna do?
I mean, hey, I don't think that first Iron Man worked without him.
You're probably right. Yeah.
I think his moment. We're watching that before Infinity War. I know. I like that movie a lot more than you do. Still.
Yeah.
There's no universe without that character like interaction and like his death scene and I think people underestimate like how effective the human stuff was at one point in that. But
Tony Stark
whatever.
Never realized foreign people could die until one happened right in front of him.
Okay, well, yes. Maybe accidental text of that movie.
Yeah.
But yeah.
We should also mention we should give a shout out to how do you say Kim Coates? Is that how you say his name?
I love Kim Coates.
From Last Boy Scout.
Yep.
Where he played Chet. Also, I gotta say this because Michael Bay. I think we all know Michael Bay is a big Coen Brothers fan. I believe the guy in the lobby at his name's Chet, the hotel lobby boy.
Yes.
His name Chet, which is the name of Buscemi's character in Barton Fink.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Chet. Like so there's no way that's got to be a Michael Bay nod to the Coen Brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny that he loves the Coen Brothers. Like, I'm not trying to be like Michael Bay must be an alien who only likes things that blow up, but like, it's just funny that it's like it's so clear that they are a huge influence on him, and his movies are basically Yeah, this is what the Coen brothers are missing.
Yeah,
But
yeah, he's a character. He's a
I mean,
character.
that's
I do love Chet.
no,
I just want to say I think that character is very
Chet's
funny in
fun. Yeah.
this.
But again, like
Yeah.
I bump up against it though, not really because of the character, just because I just don't like the whole like they're not who they like. That should have been cleared up way earlier. Like there was no reason for them to keep that subterfuge going on, right? Like
Hmm.
at a certain point, they should have been like, okay, like the moment Will Smith and Martin Lawrence were in the same room together with her, they should have been like, look, here's the truth. He's the real guy. I just had to lie to you to get you here, right? I'm sorry, but this is where we're at now, right? Like
Uh-huh.
that's what logically would have happened. And instead, you get like an awkward scene where it's like she wants to sleep with him and he can't because he's a married man.
But she is testing him. She doesn't really feel that.
Mm,
I think that's important to know. Like, look, this movie isn't like some masterful subterfuge about gender dynamics or whatever, but she is testing that. She doesn't actually want to sleep with him in that scene.
mm.
Rewatching it, that really solidified it for me.
Right. I
So like when Teresa shows up at uh, Mike's apartment,
mm,
and she's like, the little one or the big one? She's like, the little one. She's like, I thought so.
mm,
Like, it's like, she's not stupid,
yeah.
I guess.
Sure.
I mean, every character in a Michael Bay movie is a little like, someone let the gas
I mean,
on.
you know what's weird?
You know?
They do. They oddly these are some of the more actually Michael Bay is so strange when it comes to female characters because like there's a lot that are just there for eye candy, right? And there's a lot that are just there to be like hot chicks. But he sometimes tends to give more humanity and depth to his female characters than his male characters, right? Like
Hmm.
it's so strange, isn't it? Of just
Yeah.
that he like because he gets dinged with the sexism so much, and it's like what's her name? Megan Fox is the more interesting character in the Transformers movies.
Hmm.
Like it's interesting. Maybe it's just like a
Yeah.
weird
I mean,
self
like,
hate thing of like he just hates men too.
I mean, maybe.
Yeah. But there's a lot of talk about
Yeah.
like men just gotta fuck. Like that seems to be like a recurring thing in his movies. That if men aren't
Yeah.
fucking, they can't do anything. Which I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
But
it's a little gender
yeah,
essentialist, to say the least.
yeah, to say the very
Literally, to say
least.
the
Yeah,
least. Yeah, like that's the least of the least. We do not have time
but that's
or the degrees to
but
unpack all of
that's
that.
what's funny about Michael Bay is that he's similar to Zack Snyder, where like Snyder just picks things he thinks are cool, right, and puts them in his movies and doesn't really think about the
Mhm.
grander implication of those visuals, you know. And
Yeah.
like Bay does similar things with both his action and his comedy, but it's hard to tell how much of it he believes beyond the scene, you know? Like
Hmm.
he's like, wouldn't it be funny if there was like gay shit in this scene? And it's like, well, is he homophobic? Like that doesn't really mean he is. He just thinks it's funny. Like, and I don't think gay people would even disagree. Like it can be very funny, but like it's yeah, I think he just doesn't. I think it's just a very flippancy, you know. Um,
Hmm.
but it's part of what it's. I guess it's part of the charm.
I don't know about that
Yeah,
part, but I get what you're saying,
yeah,
and I guess just to start wrapping it up because I know we both have a lot to say about Bad Boys 2.
yeah.
Um, I don't know what the fuck it is, but when Teresa does show up at the apartment and and then Marcus is like, "Oh shit!" Right? It's like, okay, that's like funny because I think Martin Lawrence is kind of incredible in these
Mm,
movies, but when Will Smith comes out and he's trying to calm down Taya Leone's character, and then he sees that Teresa found him, he's like, "Oh shit!" I don't know why. His reaction to realizing how bad they fucked up, it makes me laugh every time. Like,
mm,
I don't know. To me, Will Smith is the greatest movie star of all time. I think I say movie star and I think Will Smith.
mm.
Um, it's like him or Bruce Willis, who is no longer available, and I hope he and his family
I
are being well taken care
I
of
think I
and
would
all that. But
defer
like,
to Bruce a little bit, even with him being out of commission, unfortunately at this point, because Will Smith picks really bad movies.
but that's the thing. He's like Robin Williams in this. Like, a lot of their movies maybe don't work, to say the least. Again.
But I also think, like,
but goddamn, those are like great actors and great artists.
We'll talk about this, but like my whole thing with Will Smith is he's constantly trying to be more of a badass than he is, in my opinion. Like, all right, do you think Will Smith is a badass?
Yes, I think he's the baddest ass. No, I do think he's cool.
Well, no, cool is different.
I think he's cool as shit.
Cool
Yeah,
is different.
That's I'm giving a political answer here.
Yeah. No.
I think he's one of the coolest people who's ever lived.
No, because I would agree.
But,
well, when I was a kid, Will Smith was the coolest guy on the planet. Like I'm part of the millennium generation. Like it is. He was.
Did you just come up with that, or is that something people have said?
Well, I just you know Millennium, like that's the song. I just said.
No.
Have you seen that? Here's how big I was into Will Smith. I maybe brought this up on the Wild Wild West episode. I had a VHS tape that was just all his music videos, like, which included the Millennium music video.
Wow.
Like I really thought Will Smith was the coolest guy on the planet. I was like, I'm ride or die for Will Smith. And then it took like 5 movies in a row not hitting before I was like, I think I'm done. Like it took a minute for me to be like, okay, maybe Will Smith don't got it the way I thought he did. But yeah, I think he's definitely got a cool factor, but I think he wants to be badass, and I don't think he is badass. I don't think he's very good at being a badass, you know? Bad Boys is one of the only examples where it kind of works, but part of that is that he is trying to be a badass, you know? He isn't naturally a badass in these movies. He's making up for the fact that he grew up rich, right? Like, he is... That's his backstory. So anytime he is being a badass, he is putting on a bit of a show, you know? Not saying he can't back it up, but he knows he doesn't exude that vibe. But when he's in movies like, I mean, that's I think one of the big flaws of Wild Wild West is that he's just kind of like he's just trying to be a badass, but there's no humanity there, right? Hancock runs into a similar problem, which I don't even hate that movie. Like, Will Smith falls in that weird thing where, like, I don't even hate a lot of the movies that are bad. It's just, sometimes he's like, yeah, what if this guy had, like, I also think it's very telling that the movie he makes where he was, like, the creative voice behind it was After Earth, and he plays an emotionless robot in it, right? I think that's very telling. But like when he's really good, it's Men in Black, where he's kind of corny, you know, like, yes, he can chase down an alien, but he's a corny guy, and he's also corny in Independence Day. He's corny in Enemy of the State, right? Like, he gets flustered buying lingerie for his wife, you know. And like that's where he's really good, and I think he spent so much of his career trying to push himself into I'm a hard and badass, and I think it hurt him in terms of his legacy as a movie star. So I think he picked a lot of roles that don't stick in the popular culture the way that other movie stars have. Lesser movie stars, I think, have more characters that have stuck than Will Smith, and Will Smith should have at least a dozen, you know. That's
I think that's part of the reason why, like, Bad Boys is so special to a lot of people. Like, I'll talk about it, but like, people don't just like Martin Lawrence and Will Smith. Like, they like them in these movies because their other movies don't do as good, frankly. But I saw Bad Boys 3 like 4 times in theaters. And it was a packed house every time, and people were like clapping and like laughing along with the characters, like it was fucking a Marvel movie or something, you know? Like, it was crazy. I guess the last thing on the first Bad Boys then, the chase is incredible. It is like cartoonish to the point, like all the obstacles that keep popping up in their way, like I would say unintentionally so. Like there's a point where like there's a bunch of like basketballers that are paraplegic, and like it just like the escalation it takes to get to that is so ridiculous. that Bayhem shot, the 360 shot, is still the shit.
Well, here's
Mark Mancina's score is
no.
unbelievably
I was
awesome.
actually, I'm glad you shouted that out. His score is really good, and he doesn't return for the sequels. Correct? It's other people.
No,
but they keep his theme, and whenever his theme kicks in, even when I'm not vibing with the movie, I'm like, fuck yeah, like it's.
Well, they only bring his theme back for 3 and 4. They skip on it for 2, which I think is a mistake. But
sure?
2 is like crazy.
Are you sure? Like they don't go all in on it, but I feel like they were doing like tiny riffs on it throughout too.
Maybe
like, it felt like
maybe because they replaced like.
It just felt like there were moments where there was like a little bit of it, and
there might be like a rhythm to it, because the theme was like dun 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 dun, right? And so maybe there's like something there, but it's much more like early 2000s, like right, like fucking. But they also do have like a main theme there, and it's the Shake Your Tail Feather by Nelly, which is a banger, which was not produced by anyone on planet Earth anymore. In particular.
Oh, was that a
yeah?
Recently,
no, we're gonna talk about how
was that the
Bad Boys 2 is like
the recently canceled.
It is. Yeah, it is a remarkably canceled production of a film. But yeah, first Bad Boys. Do you like the first Bad Boys?
I'm gonna say no.
Yes or no?
Honestly,
okay.
But I'm also like, here's like, I'm not like Cult of Bay, and I'm not like this. I only saw this movie once until I rewatched it for this, right? And I kind of had the thought, like, why have I only watched this one once? And then rewatching it, I remembered why. Like, it's not a movie that, like, really grabs me. And it's not a movie that I'm like, you know what? I want to rewatch. I want, like, when you throw on a movie that's sometimes not very good, but, like, it's, like, nostalgic, it's kind of like visiting old friends or something, you know? You're like, yeah, I want to hang out with them. Oddly, I'm a little more with that with the second one, where I have watched the second one several times. And it's just interesting that it never translated over to the first one retroactively. It's just kind of like, okay, like that's the first one, and I feel like people don't really talk about the first one very much as a result. Like, it feels like it's almost a forgotten film in a weird way, in my opinion. Like, just in the circles I'm in, Like,
yeah, I would say that too. Like at least for film nerd circles, I think it's like everyone talks about the second one. Like, this is Bad Boys to them. I think out in like the real world, I think people just kind of like they kind of mash them all together. It's like, oh yeah, I love Bad Boys. Will Smith, Martin Lawrence, and like there's no real like place setting for either. It's just like they are Bad Boys. And so, almost 10 years later, we catch up with the Bad Boys in 2003, post 9/11 America.
Okay, yes, we got to talk about a lot of things real quick.
Okay.
Is that like the culture really shifts in there? Michael Bay, where's Bay at in all this? So
he just did Pearl Harbor.
So is this him being like, Pearl Harbor fucking ate it, so I got to go back to somewhere safe, right? Like, is that him? I mean, it is interesting that this is kind of sandwiched between his two of his more reaching movies in terms of like trying something new, right? Like, Pearl Harbor and The Island, which we also discussed on this show. And so is that what this is? Is that why he's back here? Was it just like, let's go to the safe place?
I think it is, because up to this point he didn't tap into sequels. This is his first sequel. I think that's a really big deal. Because like, think about sequels at this point, or at least action movie sequels, even now, not like big franchise stuff, like action movie sequels.
Yeah.
The tenure is like bigger, better, right? More of what you liked before. That's how you do sequels, right? There's different stuff, but even a lot of the great ones, like Aliens, it's like, yeah, Alien, but more. Happens to be the best version of that,
Yeah.
But like stuff like Wrath of Khan or Empire Strikes Back, like a narrow focused sequel, doesn't really happen.
Yeah. Well, it also feels like,
and especially
this also feels like, it kind of feels like everyone cashing in, right? That like Bay, Lawrence, and Smith all got bigger after the first Bad Boys, and there was just kind of a like, if we all teamed up again, it's like instant box office, right? Like, that they kind of just knew if they had this movie in their back pocket, it would be a big hit. All right, in between this and that, Will Smith becomes the biggest movie star in the world, obviously. He does Independence Day shortly after. this movie. Yeah, Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, Wild Wild West, boom, it's done. Like, and then he does Legend of Bagger Vance and Ali, which are his two Oscar plays, which don't really go anywhere, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
it's like right after that he does, what does he do? He does Men in Black 2 and Bad Boys 2, right? So
Yep.
that's him kind of being like, look, I got to be a movie star again. Um, and so that's the ship. Martin, at this point, Martin is off the air. Um, can I mention one of the most offensive things I've ever seen on television and no one talks about it?
Sure. Is it from the show Martin?
No, it's not from the show Martin, but it involves the show Martin. All
Okay.
right.
I'm scared.
You remember the mini series, The People versus O.J. Simpson? Not the documentary. The Cuba Gooding Jr. starring People versus
Oh
O.J.
yeah,
Simpson.
yeah, yeah.
So, who's that guy that does that shit? The guy I hate. What's that idiot's name? Sorry, give me a second.
Yeah, that's all right.
American Crime Story, I guess is the.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I hate
Ryan
him too.
Murphy.
Thank you.
Ryan Murphy, who's terrible and has never made anything worth watching. So that's a movie that you know, I don't know if you know this, but the O.J. Simpson case tapped into a lot of the racial tension in America in the '90s. I'm not sure if you were
Mm-hmm.
aware of that.
Yeah.
First of all, there's a scene in it where Nathan Lane says the N word to try and get Mark Furman to perjure himself by saying he didn't say the N word, and they shoot it like it's a NASCAR race. It's one of the most embarrassing things I think I've ever seen. But on top of that is there's a scene in it. All right, first of all, there's a scene in it where they're going through we're following the jury, right? And the jury was like famously like locked away and like going insane because they couldn't talk to friends or family for like almost 2 years, like because of the way the trial system works. First of all, there's a sequence where we start seeing the different jurors that keep getting kicked off for various reasons, and I was hate watching it while I was recovering from surgery. And I was on the phone. I was on the phone with my friend Shannon. Shout out to Shannon Strucy. And I was talking with them, and that scene was happening. And I describe it to them, and I go, "Okay, they're showing a bunch of jurors getting kicked off. What song do you think they're playing underneath all of this?" Without missing a beat, Shannon goes, "Another One Bites the Dust." And I go, "That's exactly right." She knew it without even.
What a fucking hack.
Without even seeing it. But then, okay, so how are we going to demonstrate the racial tension happening in the jury room behind the scenes between the white jurors and the black jurors? How are we going to show this, Diego? What's a really nuanced and intelligent way to show this?
I'm scared to answer because it's going to be so much worse what you're going to say.
So it's one of those days after trial. They can't have TVs in their room, so they don't watch the news. Which I don't even know if that's true, but that's part of it. They can't watch the news in their hotel rooms, so they all have to gather in the same room and vote on what to watch. All the white people vote to watch Seinfeld. All the black people vote to watch Martin. That's how they broke that down.
Ryan Murphy, you will start coughing in 2 days.
Report to the Hague. Like, it's just, oh my god. Genuinely, like, one of the worst things I've ever seen. And people, when that came out, people were like, it's good, actually.
Like, yeah, I remember people were like, this is great.
It's good. Like, it's actually really good. And I was like, are you people on crack? But you know who is good in it because he gives an insane performance?
David Schwimmer?
No, not Schwimmer, Travolta.
Oh.
Travolta gives like a Nicolas Cage level wild performance in that show. Like, he's actually really fun to watch. He's not very good in it, but I mean the show's not very good, but he's fun in it. Him and Nathan Lane's good. Like, he's reliable. There's reliable people.
Yeah, well, Nathan Lane's good in everything.
There's reliable people on it, but it's just a very bad it's just doubling down on the spectacle of it, um, of just the OJ trial, which is kind of offensive when you think about it. Like,
Yeah, but that's all he can do. He can just like not even intentionally offend. I don't think he's even trying to do that, Ryan Murphy.
Yeah.
I think he's just like, oh, this is this is why people watch like reality TV. They love like just being fed this stuff.
Yeah.
And there's no like foresight into any of the whys or the hows. It's just like, well, spectacle.
He does the bare minimum, right? Like, I mean, he
Yeah.
does similar with the fucking Jeffrey Dahmer show, right? Like, where he tried to be like, well, this is really about the victims, and it's like, no, it's not. Like,
Yeah.
don't pull that.
Like you can say that, but like the
Yeah.
actions of what you're presenting are different.
And if he just came out and was like, I don't give a fuck, I just want to do the spectacle of it, that would at least be a little more noble and honest,
Yeah, but then people would feel gross about it.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird.
Yeah.
He's a weird guy.
Speaking of gross spectacle.
Well, yeah. Also, in between the release of Bad Boys 1 and 2, is when like Martin Lawrence has like his famous like meltdown, like where he just like he completely fell apart. I don't know. Like, do we ever know what the full story was there? Like, he had some sort of like mental breakdown.
Yeah, I don't know the full story.
Yeah.
I don't know if people know. I genuinely I don't know anything about that. Other than like it seems like he was going through a very difficult time in his personal life, and I hope he's in a better place and people around him are in a better place.
He brandished like a pistol in public and shit like that, and then also like the co-star of Martin quit and filed a lawsuit like against him for sexual harassment. But like they reconciled at some point. So who knows what's going on there again. But yeah, like he goes in a completely different path. He does the opposite, where it's like he's definitely a comedy star kind of on the downswing, right? Like, I guess his biggest movie probably before this is like Big Mama's House, which I've never actually been able to finish.
Oh, it's a comedy classic.
I mean, have you seen it? Like, I know people like.
No, I actually I don't like it,
Okay.
but I have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it like so? It's not good at all.
I don't think it's good, but look, I haven't seen it in easily 15 years at this point.
Yeah.
So
I have a feeling it's not good because those type of movies tend to not be good, especially now. Was it Cat Williams that went on that rant recently on some YouTube show, which is now like one of the most viewed YouTube videos of all time?
he has a couple recent rants, and some of them are like, oh yeah, he's spitting.
Yeah.
And then other times it's like, whoa, what the fuck happened there?
Well, one of the things he was saying, which is like a very popular one, is that there's like a conspiracy to put black actors in drag. Like,
oh yeah,
like,
yeah,
that was
yeah.
one of it. And then he was like, I think he said some like anti-trans stuff in the middle of all that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So.
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
That's the oh no, don't do that,
Yeah.
don't say that. What the fuck happened?
But it's weird that I knew who Martin Lawrence was in this time, and he didn't really make anything good around this time.
Yeah, I think I just knew him from Bad Boys.
Yeah, but he was always kind of ever present. Where like you would see commercials for his movies. I did see National Security. Which
I did too.
Which is a pretty bad movie. And that's the other thing is like you look at his film, and it's such a like they try to put him in different Bad Boys type movies, right? Like it's National Security, Big Mama's House, and Blue Streak are definitely.
Wait! How could you forget Black Knight?
Well, that's not trying to be Bad Boys.
No, but it's like it's another Martin Lawrence movie.
It is. But I was trying to say like the other like attempts to recreate Bad Boys. I've never seen Black Knight either. I'm actually barely like these might be the only Martin Lawrence things I've really seen.
Let me see what Letterboxd has to say about Black Knight.
I snuck into a movie theater to see College Road Trip and made it about 20 minutes. I remember.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like people like Black Knight.
Right.
Sorry, I just wanted to touch base on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just don't know what Martin Lawrence's standing is in terms of like, do people still like him? You know, like, or people like.
I think we do, but it's just like again, it's the Bad Boys connective tissue to reality. It's just we like him for him. He just happens to be in these movies with Will Smith, who we also like, and you know, like they don't. he doesn't have anything else alongside it anymore. Although he was great in The Beach Bum for like the 10 minutes he's in that.
Yeah.
I love him in that movie.
Mhm.
He's got to feed cocaine to his pet parrot.
Yeah.
I love Martin Lawrence as an actor. So.
Yeah, I don't know if
he doesn't get the chance to do stuff.
I don't know if I can go that far,
but
I can say I like him in these movies. Like, I just don't know if I can get there because I can't point to another thing outside of it, like that. I'm like, yeah, Martin Lawrence.
I saw the Death at a Funeral remake, which is like just kind of like boring. I like the original one as well, and but Martin Lawrence is very good in that, even though he's like a scumbag in that one. But I don't know. I do really like him, and I really think he is amazing in the Bad Boys movies. Like, I think he plays sincerity very well in movies that do not often reward that, especially in Bad Boys 2, which is kind of fundamentally a movie about trying to break his spirit and make him as bad as Mike Lowry. Like, that's what the movie's kind of about. You know, it's like, hey, stop being a pussy and shoot people and like it, because this is the world we live in. So stop being a loser. Man up.
Is that what this movie?
I don't know. That's the vibe I've always. I think that's partly what the movie's about. I truly believe that the movie is about Martin Lawrence having to become a worse person.
Okay.
Which is a very strange meta text, considering whatever that man went through in the years prior to Bad Boys 2 release.
Yeah, there's that, and it's also just considering it's 2003 when this comes out.
Yeah.
The year we invade Iraq, like. So we could talk a lot about this movie.
Yeah, we could. Let me see, when was it released? July 18th. Okay, because I know you and I recently kind of rewatched, not like simultaneously, but revisited X-Men 2, and we're like, you know what? It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Also released in 2003. And that movie was released like a day after the invasion of Iraq starts or something like that, right? Which is just fucking what that movie is about. Is like, that broke my brain realizing that. This one comes out several months after that, so never mind. It can't quite get there on the
definitely that post
9/11 joke spectrum.
Definitely post 9/11 in terms of just the attitude, right? Like,
yeah, this movie's about like, we got defeated by a foreign power, so now we have to like dominate the world again,
and it's our right to do it. Like, it's the end.
Yeah.
The final act of this movie is an ode to American interventionism.
Right? I mean, even before that, there's a line during the chase with the Haitian gang where like Martin Lawrence is like, "Oh, show him your badge," so they could pull over, and then like 5 minutes go by, car crashes ensue, shooting. Will Smith does this crazy drift, pulls out a gun, shoots a bunch of people, and then holsters his weapon and is like, "Now show him your badge," after he just killed like 5 people.
Yeah.
And it's like, fuck yeah, that's awesome. And then real world, I'm like, wait, that's psychotic. This movie's a masterpiece.
So the opening of this movie is a KKK rally. And like we did, like, there's like this whole build up with the drugs. First of all, this is just Dumb Guy Miami Vice. Like,
oh yeah,
it's such a similar plot. It's kind of crazy. But so that's maybe why I like it. So the opening, we get the opening with the drugs, and they're bringing it in, and blah blah blah, and it's like, we got a connection. They go to the KKK. They're all yelling "white power," shit like that. So Will Smith and Martin Lawrence throw off their hoods, reveal themselves, and you're like, fuck yeah. Then they're like, blue power, and you're like, oh no.
You mentioned Dumb Guy Miami Vice. The original ending to the Miami Vice movie was basically the same ending as Bad Boys 2.
Really?
I don't know if you knew that.
Really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So you got your finger on the pulse there, buddy.
Yeah. But I mean, this is just like, like, man, like, so focuses on like the minutia of things. This is like none of that shit. Like, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna.
No, this is focusing on the maximalist of all things. There's a decision for the title sequences to have directed by Michael Bay appear as they light the cross on fire.
Oh my god, I forgot.
I don't know why, but I think that is one of the most insane decisions a filmmaker has ever made.
Yeah. I think that maybe sums him up. Not that he's like a white supremacist or anything, but like that he's like, this shot looks fucking awesome. Put my name in there.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, wait, you don't want to consider the ramifications of what that means? Nah, man, look at that shit. Doesn't that shit look fucking sick? And it's like, yeah, but like, look what's in it, you know? And it's like, it doesn't matter, man.
It's fucking awesome.
Cool.
My name makes it more awesome. We should mention that Bad Boys is technically the last movie Don Simpson works on. Insane Hollywood pigman Don Simpson. But he's still credited on like all these sequels. Despite him being dead.
Yeah, well, he dies in like '96. He dies a year after Bad Boys.
He dies a year after Bad Boys, but he dies before the Rock comes out. The Rock is dedicated to him. But his name is still on Bad Boys 2 and Bad Boys 3.
Yeah. Well, because it's Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer films. So
yes, but that just became
that's why. Yeah.
That just became Bruckheimer at a certain point. Like.
Yeah.
I don't know what. Also, yeah, he's also credited on Maverick as the Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer films. Even though I believe it just dissolved into Jerry Bruckheimer films. So I don't know why he just keeps it for those ones. I don't know what the legal reason is there. Because the stories they had, they basically fell out while making The Rock. Like they broke up their partnership while making The Rock, and then he died like 4 weeks later.
Yeah. That is a weird one. And you know what? It genuinely might just be that these guys are just a little sentimental about the Bad Boys connection. Like maybe that's why they keep that there. You know?
Maybe Jerry Bruckheimer was like, he was my bad boy. And I'm like,
yeah, maybe.
And then you Google Don Simpson personality, and you're like, he definitely was. Don't look too into it. But probably an absolute monster, to be frank. I don't think there's anything about that about Bruckheimer around, but there's definitely
not that I know of.
There's definitely a lot about Simpson. So
yeah, but Bruckheimer, like as far as just like analyzing this from a distance, Bruckheimer is one of my favorite like macho producers. Like, just he basically comes up with this style of blockbuster. You know, like it's the Tony Scott influence. Like to try to get Tony Scott on Bad Boys at one point. You know, which you could like just straight up tell with that movie. Also, like that's the real thing here. Like Michael Bay is a disciple of Tony Scott.
It's kind of insane post Days of Thunder that they ever worked with Tony Scott again. Because Days of Thunder is such a fucking insane production. But they do Crimson Tide, which is kind of wild.
Yeah, which is like, I don't know the production of that one, but that is like a perfect movie. That's a fucking incredible movie. It's like watching a stage play.
Crimson Tide, you could argue, is Tony Scott's best. Might not be my favorite, but it's definitely up there. But yeah, I don't know if I have strong opinions on Bruckheimer himself, but it's weird. I saw this movie for the first time on cable when I was visiting Mexico for a wedding.
Wow!
When I was like 12, I saw this and From Dusk Till Dawn, and it was unedited. Like it was so, I don't know what the rules are there, but like they basically just showed everything in the movie down there.
No, yeah, in Mexico they let it's like Europe. They're like, I don't know, kids watch it, whatever. And
also it was strange. I don't know if this was just the hotel I was staying at, but they only had the Disney Channel for like kids stuff. And if you watched it long enough, and by long enough I mean like 6 hours, they would just repeat the episodes they played 6 hours ago. Like it wasn't even.
That sounds familiar.
It wasn't even like a long stretch. It's just it was interesting. That was an interesting trip.
Yeah, sounds interesting.
Yeah. But imagine watching From Dusk Till Dawn on your first trip to Mexico. But hey,
I'm glad you didn't turn out racist.
Hey,
I could say that because I'm Mexican.
Yeah, and you can say that because I am not racist. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. That also that. Yeah.
I got
And loving
this.
Bad Boys 2 also doesn't make you a
Yeah,
racist, but
there's
the movie
nothing
is
racist
very
in it.
much
Nothing racist at
no,
all.
no. It is. It's that discussion about like viewing does not equal endorsement.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, also,
especially older films of this ilk.
yeah.
But it is worth mentioning this movie. Every ist or like prejudice you can imagine, anything that ends with the ist, this movie basically has it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Which is a feat into of itself.
But I will say, there's like a lot of gay panic jokes in this, right? But they straight up like this. They straight up in this one more than any of them. They write them as a couple in a relationship, right? Like it is at times played. It's often played for laughs, but at times it's played incredibly straight, right? Like at times it is very much like they love each other, you know. And it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see both sides of it, of just being like they are such a like two dads vibe, you know? Like
Yeah.
and then there's like long scenes of just like not gay homophobia, gay panic. And it's a fascinating little tidbit to put in your movie.
Yeah.
But so you get
Henry Rollins stars as a
is he only
member of law enforcement.
is he only in this opening?
I think he's only in the opening. Yeah.
Because because he disappears, and I had forgotten Michael Shannon was in this, but he comes back. So like that was because he's in the opening too. So they do the KKK shootout. There weren't as many drugs there. Martin Lawrence gets shot in the ass. There's a lot of jokes about that. Anger management. Right? Like
Will Smith fucks his therapist, which is like just that makes sense for that character.
Yeah.
Well, because in this movie, this is one where they really double down on him being just like unhinged.
Yeah.
But I think the movie thinks that it's like cool and awesome.
Yes. Well, that was this era of just like people who are insane or great.
Yeah.
But we get a lot of that. We get a lot of like jokes about anger management, being more in touch with your feelings, because there's nothing funnier than that. We get the drug montage.
Woosah.
We get the drug montage with Peter Stormare and the OD, which is like to be like, this is what they're fighting against. This is what they're trying to stop. And it's like,
well, you have to mention. I'm sorry, I have to do this for like every scene in this movie. You have to mention the fucking insane, like camera movements of this. It's like because
here's what's insane. No, here's what's insane about that scene. Is that like it? So the key of that scene is to set up. It's setting up Peter Stormare as one of the drug guys, right? And then the guy ODs, and it's like, see, this is the real cost of the drug war, right? That people are out there, they have access to stuff, and they're dying because they're doing it. But the whole club scene is shot like it is Babylon. I don't mean the movie Babylon. I mean like the biblical Babylon. Like it is shot like just the most decadence, just disgust ever. And then it's like, why would I feel bad if someone here OD'd? You know, like it's such a weird like.
Well, because you don't want people to die.
No, but I'm talking about like with the way the movie is framing it, right? Like the way this club is framed, it's like let the deluge come and wipe this sin away. Like that's the way it is framed, and then it ends with, "This is the real cost of the drug war." Like, it's very funny to me.
No, it is, and again, this is the problem with the movie. This is the only problem I have with the movie, by the way, is that like it is like it is often in contrast like with its storytelling to its actual visual presentation. Now that being said, this one scene that you just described, it starts with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence in the helicopter. They're talking, right? Martin Lawrence is fucking pissed for getting shot in the ass. Even though the shootout itself is also like kind of remarkably directed. So we go from the helicopter, this overhead shot, and then the camera flips, bird's eye view. We shoot past these narrow buildings, this alleyway, into this vent, through the vents, onto the dance floor. People are dancing through the dance floor, back up to the second story glass floor where Peter Stormare is dancing. Then we go past the glass, over Peter Stormare's head, onto his money, and then we start cutting again. It's one continuous shot. Now, obviously, it's a lot of digital stitching and digital compositing, Holy fuck.
Now again,
no wonder this movie costs like $200 million.
Now again, Peter Stormare being the obvious tissue, but do you think this is another Coen Brothers reference?
Yeah.
With the pipe.
Also, just like Peter Stormare just belongs in movies like this.
Same. But agreed. But I'm talking about the going through the ducts and stuff. That is the pipe in Barton Fink.
Yeah. See, that tracks.
I think it's a lot more than just his casting, right? Like I think he really wants to be the Coen Brothers. But his contempt for humanity really holds him back. But yeah, no, it's incredible, and it is one of those where like they just wouldn't give anyone this time anymore. Like when we get to the third one, you can really feel that like they just don't do movies like this anymore. You know.
We'll talk about it, but I have
not a diss at the third one, just a more an observation.
No, I will talk about the third and fourth one a little bit. I won't give anything away for the fourth one, but there's a clear contrast in like someone taking over and making something their own.
Yes.
You know. But we'll get there.
Then we go
fucking this movie.
We go to the family pool party, right? Which and this is where the two inner conflicts are going on. Where Martin Lawrence is secretly planning on transferring, right? That's what's going on with him, and Will Smith is sleeping with Martin Lawrence's sister. Now, is that more gay subtext?
You know what?
He
can't have him.
You can't have him, so he has the sister.
Maybe.
Also, somewhat similar to Miller's Crossing, where the two men who clearly love each other are both sleeping with the same woman. So.
Hey, that could work.
Michael,
I think that works.
Michael Bay, call us. We got questions.
I want to mention something insane.
Okay.
And that this scene is actually kind of sweet and
I mean
not the conflict stuff. Like it's nice when characters like in these types of movies like you see that this is a normal thing for them. Oh yeah, Uncle Mike can come over. We're all by the pool. Join us, hang out and stuff like that. And it's like I do that with my family, Like it's just like, oh, let me swing by for a little bit. Is that cool? Or like, oh, do you want to come over? Well, whatever. It's just it's nice. Like there's a reason people like these characters in these fucking insane movies. Yes. They make them feel communal. It's why the Fast movies were such successes for such a long time.
Yeah, 100%. Is that like again? I think it's something that Will Smith misses sometimes. Is that people like his humanity, And this is a movie that at its core has contempt for humanity, but it loves these two guys, right? And it loves that these two guys love each other, that
even if they can't say it.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's like I think the secret ingredient of this one, because I think this one really taps into that the most. The first one doesn't totally have it, and then the sequels do have it. I mean, the next one does at least. But they really lean into it here. I think all the gay panic stuff just isn't in the third one, right? Like I think culturally we've just moved on, but I think that also removed any gay subtext as well. So like,
if anything, Bad Boys 2, it's like we're having these conversations about movies nowadays being like sexless. Bad Boys 2 is like, don't worry, I've got you covered, but it's also like it's too much.
Yeah,
it's crossing lines at certain points.
All right.
So
after
we'll get back to
that, the wholesome pool party scene ends with like the nice joke of the dog breaking the pool, right? Like that's a nice little button on the scene.
Oh, sorry, I got to mention, even in these conversation scenes, I think you can tell sometimes with like action movies, like, oh, these people came to shoot the shit out of this spectacle. And Michael Bay obviously is not known for his dialogue scene. Like, there's nothing amazing about like the shot, reverse shot, over the shoulder stuff here. They're just the way Will Smith is lit when he's leaning against the palm tree talking to Gabrielle Union's character. They look like they're in a fucking like the best perfume ad ever, which is not a complaint. They look so good. Like these are very beautiful people, but they just look so good and like they're movie stars in these scenes. And I wish every action movie could look this good. Now I know they're not gonna be able to afford to look this good just because of cost and
there's that angle too.
But like yeah, I'm like, as I get older and I revisit this movie more and more because I'm like a lunatic, like I'm really blown away. Just like this is kind of one of the best looking Hollywood movies ever. I think.
Also, I think it
Maybe
is.
take me to jail for that. I don't
No,
know,
no,
but
it is one of those where I think like if you have to watch one Michael Bay movie, this is the one, right? Like I think this is the
yeah.
one that has all of it, um, in the best capacities imaginable. Um,
Hmm.
so we go from this wholesome scene to how long is this chase that happens after?
So I've shown Bad Boys 2 to many people in my
Mm.
life, many friend groups. I showed it to my mom one time. She got really mad at me. Um, and there's I timed the chase out like back when I showed it to people like 6 7 years ago, and it's probably just under 15 minutes.
Good lord.
It's either just over 10 or under 15, but it feels even longer because the chase scene starts and it's very impressive technically. Like there's the
Yeah.
spiral down the garage staircase or the car way, right?
Yeah.
The body flies out, lands on like a phone booth, and it looks incredible. And there's a shooting, there's driving, then there's a big car crash, and then it stops. It's okay, we're gonna wind down here. There's a big shootout in the middle of the street. Nope, we're picking up again. That's like a good 5 minutes, what I just described there. Then we go again, and the gang members steal that big truck with all the cars in the back, the big tow truck, and then you get some of the most insane action design
No.
in
Yeah.
any
It's
movie ever.
the visual of the car flying over Martin Lawrence's head as he leans out the window has been in my brain since I saw it. As like one of the
Yeah.
most incredible shots I've ever seen in an action movie. Like
Yeah,
it's
there's
just
a lot of like digital compositing
yeah,
in
yeah.
there, but there's a lot
No,
of
no,
real
it's
cars crashing. Yeah, it's just
well, the
like,
real stuff's good too, but he can frame it well too. You can do like people have done bigger action scenes since then, but don't know how to fuck to shoot it. So
mm-hmm.
like it doesn't look very good. Whereas this is just like it's again it's one of those weird things where it's like this is oddly quaint compared to other action movies these days, but it's also like one of the most insane things ever. Like it's one of the most insane chases not in a Mad Max movie. Like
Yeah.
which is the highest compliment I think I can give it of just like the sort of endless. It really does remind me recently of Furiosa, like that middle like action scene with the war rig, right? Of just like the
Oh
dudes
yeah.
where it just like keeps kind of going, and it's exhausting, but it's like in a good way. Um, I knew a guy who lived in Miami at the time they were filming this, and he said everyone was really pissed at how long that bridge was closed
That's fucking
for
amazing.
filming the movie. So,
But you know what? I am okay with that. Like, I want movies to use locations again,
yeah,
and the location stuff in here is so gorgeous and amazing. I do love the escalation, which sounds funny to talk about a Michael Bay action scene with escalation.
yeah,
But like Will Smith is like, fucking man up, like don't be scared. The cars are gonna go around. It's like, look at that. Woo, isn't that
Yeah.
crazy? Haha. That's funny. But then even with the last one, he's like, okay, just relax. Like even he's like, oh shit. Like,
I was thinking, I had thought, when did I was trying to look up when the show Cops started in relation to Bad Boys.
oh,
I did
yeah,
not.
I never thought to look up that.
I didn't realize Cops has been on the air since 1989.
Oh wow. Well,
Yeah.
that's why they
Yeah.
did Bad Boys.
Yeah, I mean, 'cause that's where that song kind of got popular, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
of just Bad Boys.
Yeah, that's why they sing it, because it's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, we're yeah, it's a whole thing.
But that was also one of those ones where, like,
Except,
remember during the cop protest, they were finally like, "It's gone. We're never doing Cops again," and then they just sold it to Fox Nation.
yeah,
Yeah, so now it's like a Fox Nation show.
which is fitting, unfortunately.
No, it's
but
very fitting.
it's fucked up. Yeah.
But it kind of sums up America at this point.
Yeah.
Although at least that's
Yeah.
like an odd that the average age of the Fox Nation audience is dead. So like it's a very narrow market at this point. But unfortunately
Yeah,
it is still
that's
out
true.
there. But all right, so here's something. So that chase is insane, right? And really entertaining and enjoyable. Why does it happen?
May I say that again?
What happened? Why does it happen?
So we find out Gabrielle Union's character is an undercover DEA operative,
Mm-hmm.
and I think either the load she's buying or delivering to keep her cover is gonna be hit by that Haitian gang,
Mm-hmm.
who is tied to the ecstasy they were getting at the start of the movie, which turned out to be fake because they knew to hide the load.
Right.
I could not tell you exactly why that chase happens.
It's a
if that's what you're
it's a
asking.
little like it's a little flop sweaty, and then it's just like, who gives a shit? Like,
Yeah, it's like that's not what we're here for. We know it.
it
You
just
know it.
goes into
Let's
that
just keep
chase.
going.
Everyone yells at each other. Joey Pants shows up to chew him out again.
Oh yeah, when he shows up, it's like that's a fucking applause-worthy moment.
Yeah.
It's like, what did I say? Or no, that's the first one. But
yeah, that's the first one.
TNT tactical.
He's just
I don't know. He's the
going
best.
for it. But then the moment they go like DEA's
Oh, he
involved,
is.
I like them. He being like DEA was there, and he's like, really? And they're like he turns the camera. He's like, well, that's not them. That's us. That's more of us. But there they are. Like, that was DEA.
Oh, there is something amazing in the footage of that crash, because that footage is just like the footage from the movie also,
Yeah.
right? But the last car that flips into the explosion, no one hit another police car. It just flips into the explosion and blows up too,
Why not?
which is beautiful.
I mean, there's a lot of
It's
that
just beautiful.
in this movie. There's a couple of moments like that, but
It's perfect. I wouldn't change a thing.
the next big scene after this is the 360 camera shootout.
Oh yeah,
Which
yeah.
is a wild moment. Another one that's just kind of like, wow, visually impressive. Michael Bay tries to repeat this thing in Pain and Gain. There's that similar scene in it, and I think it works much better here.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest Pain and Gain fan.
A lot of people try to claim that as like his best movie. I like it more now than I did when I first saw it. I appreciate him trying to just do Coen Brothers like verbatim in that one, and I'm not the biggest fan of it either. I don't think it quite works, but yeah, he clearly is trying to put a lot of his stamp on similar Coen Brothers vernacular there. But yeah, here the camera move here, like this is just the sickest shit.
So
like sometimes shit's just fucking cool.
Again, why does this scene happen?
Because they need to get information for the drug bust, and that's as much as the movie requires.
It just leads to a shootout. Like,
yeah,
I'll say this. All right, so like everyone talks about Bayhem, right? Like with the camera lenses and the focus and all that shit with like what he uses in the frame and stuff like that. I think there's a key element people miss to what makes Bayhem. I don't hear it brought up enough, and it is said in a line in this movie during the corpse car chase when all the dead bodies are falling out. Martin Lawrence yells, "This is unnecessary." And I think that is the key to Bayhem, is how unnecessary all of it is. That none of it needs to happen. Every scene could have played out without those action scenes, and the movie wouldn't fundamentally change at all. And
I think you have to. Bayhem is tricking the audience. It's a magic trick, because you're right. These things do not need to go on as long as they do, or be the way that they are.
And I stress that is not a criticism.
Bayhem, yeah.
That is not a criticism. I think his weaker movies are when they depend on the action scenes plot-wise. Like, I think that's why a lot of the Transformers movies don't work. I think because you actually need to know what's going on in those action scenes for them to work. And you don't, right? Like, they all look the fucking same. And you can't...
There's a little monotony to them, like I mentioned with Transformers 2. So, that's the problem with that one.
So I think
that
is his problem sometimes, is just like he needs like one setup really, and that's it. But if there's anything more complicated, it doesn't work. And I think that's why Ambulance works really well, because that movie's all one setup. Like
Yeah,
there's
maybe that's
not
it.
there's not another element to it, which might have that ambulance might have the best single shot in a Michael Bay movie.
You know how good that movie is?
Mhm.
I'm not exactly sure which shot you're talking
Well, all right,
about.
try to guess because I think it'll be interesting where you go with it. Just say any good shots. There are plenty of great shots in the movie.
Yeah. Um, Having just watched it again recently, because I do love that movie, I'm really struck by the last shot of Isaac Gonzalez's character, which is walking out of the hospital. Like just the angle that follows her as she's walking up. It's like a hero shot, and
Mhm.
she's kind of getting away with something
Yeah,
in that movie.
yeah.
You know, to take care of that family.
Right, yeah,
I think that is like what Michael Bay sees as heroism.
yeah. Yes.
You know, which is more maybe telling in a way.
Yeah.
That you're getting away with something, not so much the specifics of it, but yeah, I think that's a pretty outstanding moment, and maybe it's a smaller one, so I don't. Maybe it's not the one you're referring to.
No, it's I don't know. It's a smaller moment in the grand scheme of things of a Michael Bay movie.
Hmm.
Because a lot of people talk about the drone shit in that movie, which I do like, but that's not the standout stuff to me. Um, to me, it is that shot of I'm gonna get the exact details wrong, but they have to do surgery in the ambulance while they're during the middle of the chase, and they
Mm-hmm.
have to cut the guy's like gallbladder out. Right? Is that what it was?
Something like that.
Yeah.
They have to. Well, they have to dig the bullet out.
They have
Yeah,
to dig
but
a bullet out of it, and it's just they hold it in the middle of the frame, the gallbladder, and just slowly zoom in, and then it just explodes. It's an amazing tension moment, which you're not used to in a Michael Bay movie. Like that's his version of showing the bomb. Because you know that they're not going to show that gallbladder for that long if it's not going to explode. It's an amazing moment.
Yeah, I never would have picked that one, but I see what you're saying, and
It's
I'm
it's
not gonna say no to that.
it's the moment I realized I liked the movie, right? Like it was the
Hmm.
moment where I'm like, okay, this is good. Like I don't have to give any pretense to Michael Bay in order to like it because
Yeah.
it's a little sweaty getting into the ambulance, but
Hmm.
once it's in it, it's really good. So um, we'll talk about that one day because that's a film
Also,
blockbuster. Um,
yeah. Oh yeah. Anything to talk about Yahya Abdul-Mateen also, because that guy's a
yeah.
fuck. That's a new movie star to me. I don't think he's had the moment
Mhm.
that like Will Smith had, but that guy's fucking
A lot of
awesome.
actors struggle to have that moment these days because of the nature of the industry. Hopefully that will change.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but,
Actually, you know what? That movie might give him a moment, but again, we'll talk about Ambulance another day.
yeah. Um, after the 360
Yeah. So that.
shootout, we get the gay panic confession scene.
Well, I gotta mention. Martin Lawrence is like beginning to deteriorate like his
Oh yeah,
sanity. And like, cause he's trying to stay calm. He's woosah, you know. Even the
yeah.
captain knows woosah, and Will Smith is like, "Whoa, everyone's acting like a bunch of wussies around me and stuff like that, or whatever." Even though they are like correct, and he is like just a psychopath. Uh,
Mhm.
and then like in the middle of that shootout, you see the point of no return for Martin Lawrence's character, where he can't handle it anymore. So by the end, he's like, you know what? There's only one guy alive left, and he's not going to say anything. So he's like, let's interrogate some other suspects. But oh, this guy can't talk. His brains are all over the end table. Oh, and look at this guy. He's all fucked up. And it's just like, look, just tell me, do you know anything? Do you know something? He's like got a gun in this guy's face, and it's just like, this shouldn't be that funny to me. But because I like Martin Lawrence so much in this, like, because what he's doing is like, he is also
Well,
psychotic
you know what
in
they're
this.
doing.
He's just trying to be better.
You know what they're doing.
Well, there's good cop, bad cop.
Well, it's
but
not.
this
It's
is
not
like,
good cop, bad cop. It's Abbott and Costello. This is Abbott and
yeah,
Costello.
maybe, yeah.
Martin Lawrence is Costello. Like it's just him like falling apart. He's trying to warn Will Smith about Frankenstein's monster being in the basement, and he won't listen. Like it's just the twist is that by the end of the movie you're supposed to side with Abbott. Like you're supposed to be like, okay, he was right the whole time. Like It would be like if an Abbott Costello movie ended with Costello picking up a gun and blowing everyone away. Like, but that's the vibe they're going for. It feels like, in terms of like the comedy duo, which is like there was a little bit of that in the first one, but it's much more pronounced here. The only difference is that one too. The other joke with Abbott Costello is that like for some reason Costello can get every woman ever, and Abbott can't. Like Abbott's always the third wheel. Like even though Costello's a dope, like, but that's always like the women are usually after Costello's money, or in the case of Abbott Costello meet Frankenstein, they want Costello's brain to put in the Frankenstein monster. An incredible movie for those who haven't seen it. But
yeah, so they go to the video store to get evidence off this video camera.
Yep,
and it's like
that's why they're there.
No, this is the thing, because this came up in the rewatch with some friends a couple weeks ago. They were like, doesn't the police, like, look, whatever, police are stupid in real life. This is movie stuff. Don't they have, like, a division that they can just show this to, right, and, like, get
they literally
information off the video that way?
They have a hacker guy. Like, we know they do, but no, they got to go here so we can have this brilliant scene of just peak early 2000s gay panic. And
it's rough.
It's rough, but what kind of saves it? Like, I'm not saying like saves it and make it a good scene, but like stops it from being the worst thing you've ever seen. Is that it goes to that South Park level of they're making fun of everyone, right? Because it ends with that lady being like, "You need Jesus," and we're clearly supposed to be laughing at that lady. Like, we're not supposed to be on her side, right? Like, she's supposed to be kind of. And they also, the way Bay frames it, there's the one gay guy who's like, he is opening up to him, like. And if you watch that woman's like, you sickos need Jesus, you can see that guy in the background shaking his head, like disgusted at this woman, and it's an interesting touch. And I think it's just like
it is.
I think it's one of those where Michael Bay's like, I'm not like, I don't think Michael Bay thinks he's being homophobic. He's just like, this is funny, like
it's funny that people think they're in a relationship.
Yeah, which is like a joke people have been doing for fucking 50 goddamn years, but.
Yeah, but he probably wouldn't find it funny if it was a man and woman in that situation that had a platonic relationship.
What is the first?
I wonder why.
What's the first gay panic moment in cinema?
Oh, I don't know. There's probably countless.
Well, like there's like gay panic in terms of like the gays being like genuinely a threat to a character, which I'm not counting. Is it Some Like It Hot?
If we're talking just like single solitary characters, Bringing Up Baby has a pretty good one.
Yeah.
What, you think I just went all gay all of a sudden?
Yeah.
You know, like.
I guess Something Like It Hot isn't totally gay panic because at the end the guy's like cool with it, right? Like,
yeah. I just saw someone mention that, see, because they're like Happy Pride Month, and there's that scene, right?
It is and it's like it's an oddly like memorable moment for a certain group of people, like just like
because it's totally like they probably didn't mean to be that progressive with that, but like goddamn, history shines brightly upon that moment. Yeah. Well, nobody's perfect, like. Because that character is sincere about it. So even if the people behind it were like homophobic freaks or something like that, or assholes, like that moment lives on beyond them now, which is interesting. Yeah.
It's a good thing the movie ends there. Like if it went on for maybe 5 more minutes, it would be a problem. But also, I mean, that's a movie that is like basically what destroyed the Hays Code, right? Like. But that movie comes out and it's like the Hays Code's gone, so it's kind of an important movie in that regard. And it's good that is the note the movie that destroyed the Hays Code is on.
Yeah.
So,
and Bad Boys 2 just destroyed American sympathy.
I can't remember if I was talking about it with you. It might have been on the podcast, so I'm sorry for repeating ourselves. But there was a part of me that was wondering if all this weird gay panic humor of the early 2000s is a weird way that we ended up normalizing gay relationships. Like, it was just so ever-present as, like, a comedy cheat code that, like, it normalized it in a weird way.
Yeah, like, two negatives making a positive,
Yeah,
you know?
like, I think it was weird, because I also think a lot of the times it was done, like, some of it was overtly hateful, other times it was just, like, lazy comedy was the majority of it. But it's also something where I'm, like, I think about, like, in a weird way, it was like my introduction to that kind of stuff, and like you're meant to laugh at it, but you're not like it's rare that it's actively hateful at the people. It's just like, boy,
Yeah.
they're a character, and sometimes they're the funniest character in the movie if you're 8. Like, and it's also like I was thinking of like, I mean, I now pronounce you Chuck and Larry is about them getting like marriage equality at the end, right? Like, even
Hmm.
though the joke of that movie is that it's two straight men having to pretend to be gay. Like, but then there is a very sincere subplot with Ving Rhames being like, I'm actually gay and I never felt like I could be open until you guys. And when you're a kid,
Hmm.
you're not being exposed to those kind of struggles. Like, it's oddly normalizing those things. I don't want to like lay credit at the feet of that. Obviously, the majority of credit lays at like the tireless activism of people over the decades, right? But I think it
Hmm.
was a weird thing in the culture that like it slowly started making people go like, okay, it's not that weird. Like,
You know what's fucked up?
hmm,
Several years ago, and I brought this up before. Several years ago, we had this like just a full on question: can movies like change the world? Do they have the power to change the world? And we thought like maybe like individual people or whatever. I think the more we've talked in our friendship and in our lives, I've come to realize movies probably can actually change people, but there's no catharsis on a mass scale.
yeah,
It's individual catharsis that like they pop up like little balloons
hmm,
or like daisies or fireworks or something, right? And that instills mass change. It just takes a longer time
yeah.
for that to come into
Well, I also
effect.
think that's
I do think movies could change the
well, I think
world
that's
now.
why there is
Yes.
such a reactionary industry against movies changing people's minds, right? Like, I think that's why
Hmm.
most of YouTube is full of people who are reactionaries trying to call everything woke because they want to stop it, right? They know it can change people's minds. They wouldn't be working that hard if it didn't, right? And I agree.
Yeah.
It's not something that can happen. Like, it's not like you can make the one movie and then it fixes it for everyone. You know, you're never gonna do that. But I think it's a bunch of people pulling in the same direction. And I think some people are not even doing it for righteous or reasons, like they're doing it for incredibly selfish, lazy reasons. But it still pulls the culture in that way. So I find it a little fascinating. And I wonder if that's actually something we're struggling with in terms of trans rights, is that we don't know how to be funny about trans rights yet. You know? Like there's
Hmm.
no trans comedy that is in between being like fully supportive and outright hateful, you know? Like
Yeah.
there's we haven't found that weird like Midwest version of it. Um, and I wonder if that's part of the struggle right now, just culturally, right? Like, because
Yeah.
the rights version of like a trans joke is like trans people should die. And it's like that's not really a joke. Like,
Yeah.
that's just an
It's like
endorsement of
you're just being a bigoted
yeah, that's just
asshole.
an endorsement of political violence. Like that's not really funny in any capacity. But yeah, there's a lot of that sort of hate that but even then they're not even that good at it. Like did you follow Lady Ballers at all? The
No.
conservative it's I think it's produced by the Daily Wire. Their comedy film about like a bunch of guys are going to pretend they're women to be on a women's basketball
Oh, I
team.
did hear
Yeah.
about that, but then I heard about it and I was like, yeah, obviously I'm never watching that, so I'm gonna tap out.
Here's the thing about it for people who haven't seen it, and you don't need to see it. It is one of the most hateful movies I've ever seen, but not at trans people because they do not even bother to acknowledge the existence of trans people in the movie. Because
Oh wow.
because like that's how conservative they are. Like they're not real, so like you can't really make jokes about people you don't think are real, right?
Yeah.
But
Oh
but if you're
wow.
making
Fucking
but if you're
idiots.
making trans jokes that are hateful, but there are no trans people in the movie, who are you making the jokes against? That's right, the women.
Yeah, I was
And
gonna
it's one
say.
of the most deeply
Oh
misogynistic movies I've
no.
ever seen. And it's a movie about like at its core, it's about the threat to women's basketball, right? Like the weird conservative being like, if we let men play women's sports, it'll destroy women's sports. And this is a movie that is outright being like, women shouldn't even be playing sports in the first place. Like, it's so much more hateful to women than even the most crazy conservative idea of what trans women are. Like, it's fascinating in a weird way. Like, I didn't expect it, but once you realize it, you're like, oh, of course. Like, it could never have gone any other way. Like, that's all, like, again, that's all it really is. Like, that's all homophobia is. That's all transphobia is. It's a weird other extension of misogyny, right? Like, there's nothing.
Which is why, in some ways, Bad Boys 2, literally hating everyone equally, is in its own way an equality, a progressive win,
Yeah.
if you will.
Yeah.
Comrade Michael Bay.
Sure, let's embrace it.
I'm not serious about that.
No.
Don't.
No, I get
Yeah.
it. I get it, but it's
Yeah.
it's fun. It's fun.
Well, okay. Well,
No, I mean, look.
when I showed this to friends, I had to keep looking over, like to let them know, like, hey, just heads up, like whenever something fucking vile was gonna happen, it happened about every 5-10 minutes.
I'm not gonna show up at the Acceptance Coalition with my copy of Bad Boys 2 and be like, it'll be a fun Saturday night. This, like, I would read the room a little bit with who was into it,
Yeah.
but I think it is fun in the sense that we can take it apart in its like flaws. Like. Certain movies are more revealing in their flaws than a movie that is like I'm more aligned to politically, that is a more well-constructed film, right? Like, it's just kind of fascinating.
And I think the thing is, I think it's okay to say this because this is a work of fiction and not a real human being. It's honest in its depravity.
Yeah.
And I think that's easier to like discuss and embrace in a discussion sense.
Yeah.
Like as a work of art.
Yeah.
Because I do think this is a work of art. Art does not have to be something intrinsically beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
It becomes beautiful to me because I'm just like, wow, nothing will ever look like this or act like this ever again. And that's a good thing. But like, wow, like this is this kind of the eighth wonder of the world to me.
The further removed we get from this era of filmmaking, like we're going to see which ones really stand the test of time. Even movies that aren't necessarily good or quote morally correct. Like, there's plenty of other movies that capture this era as well, but they aren't nearly as good and they don't capture the era nearly as well, right? And I think just the further removed we see it more when we look back at something like this. Because I think the Transformers movies are actually going to struggle with that, right? Like, I don't think the Transformers movies are going to have the legacy that this might have in terms of being like, that is a product of its era,
I think that first one does, if only because there was that trend a while back, like a movie ending, but it's 2007, and it would end with What I've Done from Linkin Park, and that's from the Transformers movie, And I do think like that first movie mostly holds up for people of our age demographic, especially. It's like, oh, I grew up with that movie or whatever, right? I think there is genuinely something to be concerned about with franchises that just don't stop releasing movies. They lose staying power with the general public.
Yeah.
There's a Transformers movie that came out last year. No one talks about it anymore. That's not even like a pro-Bay, anti-new guys taking over. Like, it's not even about that. I think by continuing to release these movies like so often,
you're not letting people miss it. You're not letting people, and so it's interesting that it happens that way. But I don't know. We'll see. Have I told my Transformers story on the podcast?
Maybe
of just that, like, when that movie came out, it was the movie I was most hyped for that summer. Like,
oh yes, and you didn't like it.
Yeah, and well, it was one of those where like I like straight up I convinced myself I liked it leaving the theater, like because I had when you go to a movie like you have so much expectation, you don't want to admit it wasn't good. And then I called up a friend who had just seen it, and within an hour phone conversation, we were like, it was pretty good, but I had a couple problems, and then by the end we were like, motherfuck this movie, like. Just that 1 hour conversation turned it all around. That was a big disappointment for me, and that was a weird that was probably the closest I ever got to like not real fans, right? Like where I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm like a giant robot guy, and like I went to that movie because I like giant robots, and I'm like it doesn't tap into anything I like about that. And then that movie got embraced by like the dumbest people in my high school class. No offense to them, but
No, no. We always didn't go to the same high school, but I'm among them. I thought that movie was awesome.
hey,
I still like that
I
movie.
know you do. But
Yeah.
I just remember like there was a guy in my class who was like one of those guys where like if he's not QAnon now, it's just like by sheer luck. Like he was just a dummy, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
and I just remember I can't remember what movie I was seeing, but it was the same day as the midnight premiere of Transformers 3, I believe. And I just remember leaving the theater with friends, and I look over and I watch him walking in, and it was like there was no question what movie he was there to see, and I'm just like, oh god, like now he's probably a fucking state senator somewhere, um, but uh,
Well, here, like, what's the next
well, all right.
big
So
action scene?
the next thing that really happens is the when they fake being exterminators, which is like a fun little sequence, right? Of just it goes on a
It is, and
while.
then there's a
Yeah,
dismemberment.
there's a dismemberment. It goes on a little while. Then there's a bunch of stuff that like I just don't even really know what happened. There's a lot of talking, right?
Wait! You can't skip over the rats.
So the rats are fun. Like it's nice.
Yeah, well,
There's the rats
I mean,
fucking in the there's the rats
yeah, that's what I was talking
there's
about.
the rats.
We had a whole discussion on the rewatch when it was like, so someone's job that day was probably to either program two animatronic rats fucking or grab like safety rats and just kind of hold them underneath until they like gyrate against
And
each
you know what?
other.
Here's
And
actually the point I was building towards. Where I think this is Michael Bay going like this is like Michael Bay finding the line and then he's not able to stop after this, right? Like I
hmm
think in terms of his what he does in his movies, he's fine. Like rats fucking like that's funny, right? But like
hmm
by the time you get to fucking Transformers, it's like dogs fucking, you know? Like he's going more into that, and it's just
hmm
like it doesn't work, and it's not nearly as entertaining. And then I was thinking with like the gay panic scene, like there's an equivalent of that in uh, Pain and Gain with the fucking gay sex shop. That's like an extended part of it where it's just isn't it
hmm
funny to see the Rock standing in a gay sex shop and it's like not really like
Yeah.
it's I it's weird where like I think there's a lot of stuff in this movie that you can see him being like well people liked it there so I'll do it more here and it plays worse later um and yeah just that was
I just had this fucking revelation in my brain that The Rock and Will Smith should make a movie together. Now, some people might think there's no physical way the universe will allow that to happen with the identity of those two movie stars. I think he should be in Bad Boys 5, and I think that would be the thing that kills me.
well also I think both of them are kind of at a desperate point in their career so we'll talk more about that but
Yeah.
there's it's not the least likely thing to happen. Um, how is all right? This is the weekend Bad Boys 4 is coming out. How is it looking box office wise? Like, is there any report on it?
I haven't been keeping up. I'm assuming it's gonna do well because 3 did fucking like
Yeah,
gangbusters. That was the first hit I think them and Bruckheimer had in a while. Um, and then it was the last big hit before COVID shut
yeah, but
everything
that's a
down.
different world, man. Doesn't mean we're still in it, right? Like, doesn't mean that transferred
That's
over.
true. Yeah.
So,
I don't know. Yeah. But again, like people really love the Bad Boys. I think that's the thing. And even this, a sequel to that, a legacy sequel, which people still think is one of the better legacy sequels, frankly. Maybe not Fury Road, but like it still fucking holds up as a movie to a
yeah,
lot of people. And I think the 4 year gap between this and the previous movie, I think that's gonna help it.
okay,
But I mean, hey, who knows? Who knows?
yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
It's just weird. Like, I feel like there's no real way to totally guess it right now, but I was just interested.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's. I think that's an important topic to discuss because it's like everyone's movies are bombing this year except for Godzilla, X Kong, and Dune 2 for some
Mhm.
reason,
Godzilla X
and Kingdom
Kong.
of the Planet of the
Yeah,
Apes.
Godzilla X Kong benefited from Godzilla minus one. Like everyone is just high off of Godzilla minus one at this point. Like so
I mean, maybe. You know what? I also think it was Godzilla versus Kong. People were like, I wish I saw that in the theater.
Yeah, no, that
I
helped,
was like,
but I
yeah,
think that I think there's a weird like pro Godzilla air right now, where like average people are talking about it, like
yeah,
so.
maybe. Oh, I mean, the day of this recording, Godzilla minus one just hit Netflix like everywhere.
Yeah,
They surprise dropped that shit on us.
yeah,
I don't know why they don't want to make money off that movie, but whatever. I'm not gonna complain.
yeah.
It's not my money.
Yeah, give us a physical copy. Um,
Yeah, please.
it'll get here eventually, but they probably made some deal with Netflix where Netflix is lighting another pile of money on fire to appease shareholders. But
Yeah.
yeah. Because after the extermination scene, there's a lot of like stuff I don't really remember what's happening, right? Like it's just there's a lot of back and forth. I think the confession happens in the middle of this, right? Where he admits that he's with the sister, and Martin Lawrence admits that he's probably
Oh,
going to
yeah.
leave.
Well, there's another bit where like I just love Will Smith. Like you called him like goofball, like his characters kind of be
Yeah,
goofballs,
goofy, corny.
and
Corny would probably be.
corny,
Yeah.
corny, yeah. But I also love him like just up against the edge of like discomfort because he's like when she's gonna tell her brother that her and Mike are together. He's like, no,
Yeah.
don't do that. He's mad. Like, and it's like funny. He's like,
No, it's
because he plays so cool, and he's just like, no. At the end of the day, he's still just like, kind of a dork. Just like, nope, I can't deal with that right now. Please don't do
no,
that.
that's some of his best stuff. Like when he behaves like that. So I do like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially we get Michael Shannon back into the movie.
so
For
stupid.
reasons I don't actually remember why.
He is going to take them to because they're trying to still trying to figure out why the ecstasy wasn't at the drop off at the beginning of the movie. So they take him out of jail. They're going to blackmail him to help find out where their loads are getting dropped off at because that wasn't the place.
Does he ever do it? Like, does he actually do it, or do they just put it together?
Yeah. So when they go. They take him to, or he takes them to that drop-off point, and that's where Sid tells Marcus that her and Mike are together and dating. That's where that happens. There's some great day for night stuff there. That fucking crisp ass Michael Bay blue. Oh my god, I love that shit. And then you get the chase scene, which is somehow more depraved and vile
with the dead
than the one earlier.
Falling out.
Yeah,
just heads exploding. It's good stuff.
Yeah, although you do get this great moment where they're like, "Shit, we need a car to go after them," and then they're like, "Okay, let's take this car," and then Mike's like, "That's a shitty car. Don't take that car." And it's Michael Bay in the front.
Michael Bay in the car, and he like yells at him, and it's like, "There's."
He's like, "Fuck off, loser," or whatever. And then a Porsche pulls up, like, "That's a car. Get that car." And then it's like, "Oh shit, it's Dan Marino." And having done the Bad Boys for Life experience, or excuse me, Bad Boys Ride or Die experience, and finally getting to drive a Porsche, I think I'm a car guy now.
Okay.
Those cars go so fast, and they let you drive them super fast. They let you do the turns and the drifts and the. I know how to drift now.
You're talking about Porsches.
It's a whole thing. Porsches, yeah.
My dad loves Porsches.
Oh my god, I get it. I get it now. Yeah. There's that great line for like when the chase starts and Mike's like, "Oh yeah, Dan Marino should definitely buy this car. Not this one though, because I'm gonna fuck this one up. But he should definitely get one like it."
But it's a good scene. It's interesting, Dan Marino in this. Also, I was gonna say, you know what's weird? As hateful as this movie is, it's one of the few movies that makes the state of Florida look appealing at all to live in.
Yeah, it looks nice.
Yeah, it actually looks kind of nice. Like, which is not the vibe you normally get in movies set in Florida.
No.
Even with all the hateful shit that is happening in this movie. So, I just found that a little amusing.
Yeah, I mean, but yeah, this is the point of the movie where it almost gets repetitious to talk about, and I think it close to that when you're watching it, because it's like I described that they're still trying to find where they how they lost all the ecstasy shipment early in the movie. There's like 3 scenes dedicated to that already, where the leads kind of go nowhere.
So much has happened in this, and the plot hasn't really progressed in any real capacity. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the drug lords have made more progress, right? Like, there's this
Yeah.
escalating drug war that's about to go down, and uh, but the cops are kind of just going in circles for most of it, and it really just feels like giving everyone busy work just so they can fit in more action scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, there's no way the audience figures out the drugs are in the bodies before the cops do, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
the biggest twist ever. Um,
No, no, it's not. Like if it came like half an hour into the movie, or at
yeah,
least an hour, I'd be like, okay, that's like maybe would have been
yeah,
caught off guard. But because I'm actually like thinking in my life,
yeah.
it's yeah, it's pretty dead giveaway. Haha, get it?
They get
Um,
thrown off the case, but not really, and then they break into the fucking place and they find all the
they
drugs. Yeah,
that is that might be the worst scene in the movie.
really.
Like morally,
Then fucking
when they break into the morgue.
what is it that pushes it over the line for you?
Um, well, because Martin Lawrence keeps talking about like Will Smith's like proclividity for talking about like titties and
Oh
stuff,
yeah.
and then like they're looking at the cadavers, and then he finds one of a large-breasted woman, and then he's like, Mike, what are you doing? And he's like, man, what am I gonna do with some big ass dead titties? And then it's like, okay, well that was like super weird. That doesn't need to be in the movie. And then later when they hide like from the morgue attendants who are in on the drug thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Martin Lawrence hides next to the dead breasted woman,
Oh yeah.
and there's just a close up of him right next to him, and it's like, yep, you had to frame and light that, you had to set that scene up, you had to, yeah,
Maybe
there
that
were
was
decisions made that took people to that point in human history,
maybe that
and I
was
don't
just
think they're good.
maybe that was just Michael Bay's reference to the life of director Ingmar Bergman.
I don't even. What
When
we're gonna
when
we're
Ber-
not
when,
we're not
when
gonna.
Bergman was a child, he got locked in a room with a cadaver on accident.
And that's Michael Bay's version of that.
Yep.
So this is Martin Lawrence's coming of age story.
Yeah.
Yeah, which goes with my interpretation that this movie is about Marcus having to become a worse person.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he also accidentally eats the ecstasy, which
Yeah.
is a very sitcom-y, like, oh, this person actually ingested drugs, but fucking A, Martin Lawrence is so funny.
Mhm.
I'm sorry. It kills me every time. Like, even like the stupidest shit, like he's licking his palm for a second.
Mhm.
Like, I don't know why. He can sell the shit out of this. Like, I just love Martin Lawrence, I think. I think that's what I've come into terms with here.
Okay.
And then, yeah, when they get to the captain's house, and it's like totally zen and chill. And it's the one scene in the franchise where he's not like yelling at them.
Yeah. And it's weird. Like,
4 movies, that's the one.
It ends with them being like, "Hey, he took drugs," and then he helps him. Like, he's like, "God damn it!" And then he's like, "Okay, we got to keep hydrated." Like, it's not a like you motherfuckers. It's just like, here's what you got to do. He's gonna get dried out.
Yeah.
In a moment.
Oh, and then there's the cap off to a subplot in the movie,
yeah.
because after Martin Lawrence got shot, his nerve damage has affected his ability to maintain an erection, and now he's like, oh, I got an erection.
It's also
Mike,
funny
call Teresa.
how that's like a very real thing worth discussing, that people that go through traumatic events can like experience like impotency like that, and it's like a very like impotency can be like oddly traumatic for people. It's something that's rarely explored in cinema outside of like very serious art films, and here it's in this movie, and it's like just for a gag. Like, it's just wild to me. We also
See, ally Michael Bay.
yeah, sure. Not sure if you want to claim him.
He's
just
talking
yet.
about stuff the woke left isn't ready to begin.
He's not,
you know?
You know what's weird? I don't picture him as one of those guys.
No, I don't either.
Like,
frankly,
like I don't know what he is, but I don't picture that. I just know he's like pro the troops, right? Like,
yeah.
he's always like, the troops are great, but that's about it.
Yeah, he loves the troops. He loves law enforcement to an extent. I will say there's some funny moments where in ambulance, because ambulance seems very conflicted, to say the least. I'm not literally gonna call him Comrade Michael Bay, but he did talk about it in like the press run up to. He's like, yeah, if you're nice to cops love me. You know, they let me do whatever. I just say like, hey, you want to be in the movie? People love being in the movie. Especially cops. And it's just like, oh, okay. Like, that's why he can do whatever he wants on a film set, basically.
Yeah.
So
In the middle of all this is when they terrify the boyfriend that shows up at the house.
Reggie,
Yeah.
yes.
They just yell at him for like an extended period of time.
Oh yeah, with lines neither of us here can repeat.
We can't.
But that is one of the most iconic moments of the last like 25 years of movies, and I'm not even joking.
And now that we're talking about that moment, I would like to bring up Roger Ebert's 1-star review of Bad Boys 2. Let me see if I can find it. There's a good quote from him in here. It's the opening line of it's the opening paragraph of his review. This is the opening. There is an ugly scene in Bad Boys 2 that I want to tell you about. A cop, played by Martin Lawrence, is alarmed that his 15-year-old daughter is going out on her first date. We see the girl, pretty and hopeful in her new dress, being fussed over by her mother. Doorbell rings, and Lawrence opens it to confront her date, a nervous 15-year-old, tall and thin and neatly dressed. Marcus and his partner, Will Smith, intimidate the boy without mercy. He is threatened with the unspeakable if he lays his hand on the girl. They demand to know if he is a virgin. They slap him with the N-word. At one point, a gun is pulled on him. Ever had sex with a man? Smith asks. That's with a leer want to. The boy is terrified. The needless cruelty of this scene took me out of the movie and into the minds of its makers. Which is, I just find that interesting that he singled out that moment in particular.
Yeah, it is. Everything in this movie is insane. I think that one stands out for a reason. They're threatening a child.
Yeah.
You know.
What were they thinking? Have they lost so much touch with human nature that they think audiences will like this scene? Do they think it's funny? Did the actors voice any objections? It's the job of the producer to keep the film on track. Did Jerry Bruckheimer notice anything distasteful? Or is it possible that everyone connected with the film has become so desensitized by the relentless, cynical aggression of movies like this that this scene passed without comment? So, yeah. Ebert not a fan of the film.
No. Oh, there's one line I can say, it is funny in its inappropriateness. I want to stress this. But it's the very last line when Teresa basically saves Reggie. She's like, "Oh, ignore my husband and his silly friend. You look nice." And then they're like, "Okay," like Martin Lawrence is like, "Oh, you're a virgin, right? That's gonna stay that way." And then Will Smith is like, "Hey, you ever made love to a man?" He's like, "No. Do you want to?"
Yeah, that's the line. Ebert singled that out like as being wow.
I'm sorry. It makes me laugh. Maybe I'm depraved. I don't know. This movie changes a person.
It's an interesting scene.
It's an interesting scene.
I find this scene funny, but I'm not sure whose side I'm supposed to be on. Because what they're doing is...
I'm on the side of Reggie.
Yeah.
Because Reggie is now an iconic cinema character. He reappears in the sequels. Well, that's not a spoiler.
That's what's funny is that like he becomes a regular almost. Like that's just...
When Reggie reappeared in Bad Boys 3, I've never heard audiences clap for a minor character like that. Ever. It was like Stan Lee walked on screen. Yeah. I'm not even joking. So these movies mean something to people, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I guess now we just like we'll head into the finale.
Yeah. Everything comes
like,
to a
there's
head.
A fake third act.
Yeah, there's like a fake third act where they're gonna raid, but then like everything gets moved, everyone gets caught, and then that's the famous "this shit just got real" moment, which is like probably the best line delivery Martin Lawrence has ever done. Like, it's
oh yeah, well because you feel the shit getting real.
Yeah. And then it's just, and like I said, the last act is just an ode to American interventionism. Like, it's them being like, we got to go into Cuba to get her back. And it's literally like, well, you won't let us do it, but we're going to do it anyway. And then, like, lines of guys being like, we're going with you. Like, who have
no relationship to these people.
No. And also, visually coded similar to the white supremacists from the beginning of the film.
Oh, with like the goatees and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. Is Michael Bay making a point here? Probably not. But anyway, it does
No.
happen. And I do I had forgotten, because this kind of the last chunk of this isn't as powerful as some of the earlier stuff, but I had
You don't think so?
No, honestly, it kind of peaks at that chase scene early on. Like, that's one of the best chase scenes ever. The rest of the stuff's great, but not as good as that. That's all I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's bad or anything.
Okay.
But I had kind of forgotten what happens here, and when they're getting ready to invade the mansion, I thought they were going for something a little more subtle, right? I thought they were gonna be okay, they gotta get in, they gotta make sure everyone's here, blah blah. They gotta do X, Y, Z, and then they just immediately just start blowing up the mansion. They don't try anything subtle. A guy just comes in the whole points a bazooka and fires.
Yeah.
There was no cleverness to it. It was just oh, okay. But I'm that's not even a complaint. I just found that amusing. That
Oh yeah.
you're we got guys signed up. We're going behind enemy lines. We brought in by connections from the CIA. We got tools. We got to go in. We got to be quick. We got to be subtle. And it's just boom, boom, boom. It just totally swings in the opposite direction.
There's also we haven't talked about Johnny Tapia, who's the villain of this movie, and because he's not really a character, he's just this dude, Jorge Mola, the actor, he's just doing some Scarface coked out shit, which is hey, fine, that's all you need for that character. I'm not even dissing him, but that character, Johnny Tapia, has a mother who's involved with the crime organization, and they're early on in the movie when he shoots one of his henchmen in the head. The mom comes out to check. She's what happened? He's oh, he shoot himself, mama. and then she picks up a shotgun in the rescue scene, and then one of their cop buddies is oh, mama, I'm sorry, and they fucking knock her out, and they drag her into the closet.
Can I bring up one of my favorite moments amongst his family in this? It's a very brief moment. The bad guy, he's got a daughter that's always around, right? Mm-hmm. Which might be another Coen Brothers reference to Miller's Crossing with John Polita with his son that's always hanging around in Miller's Crossing. The daughter is carrying these two cute cats, and she's Papa, I found these cats. Can we keep them? And he just goes, no. There's no reason for it. We know he's a bad guy by this point in the movie. We didn't need to underline it yet again.
No, but he does actually like his kid.
He does, but
when someone.
It's just funny. He's just so blunt. He's Papa, can we keep him? No.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Or there's that bit where he's they're painting the Last Supper in their house in their mansion in Cuba. And he's this is fucking depressing. I just want little angels smiling down on me. Mm-hmm. It's just what? There's nothing here. Yeah. But hey, that's the energy I want for a villain like that.
Yeah.
Just give me something, The explosions and the shootings and the fucking everything is happening in this finale.
They race through the shanty town. Which another scene,
which is incredible because stuff starts exploding there, and there's a blink and you miss it line about this is where they develop the drugs or whatever, so the chemists work here, and that line's just there so everything can keep blowing up.
Yeah, because here's also from Ebert. What happens next is kind of sickening. The Hummer speeds down a hillside entirely covered by the tarp shanties of poor people, walls and roofs, doors and windows, dogs and chickens. Corrugated iron and curtains all fly into the air as this Hummer cuts in a swath through the settlement. And I'm thinking, people live there. There's a quick mention that the drug production takes place on this hillside, but still, dozens of poor shantytown dwellers must have been killed. Not that the movie notices. There was once a time when a hero would sacrifice his own life rather than injure innocent bystanders. No longer. The heroes of Bad Boys 2 are egotistical monsters concerned only with their power, their one-liners, their weapons, their cars, their desires. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised that characters who wipe out a village can also make cruel jokes at the expense of a kid on his first date. Everybody involved in this production needs to do some community service. That's the end of his review.
Wow. Here's the thing. He's not
No,
wrong.
he's
I
100%
do
right.
think.
That all
Yeah,
of that is correct.
I think that's. Yeah, but that's what makes this movie a masterpiece.
No, I'm in agreement. Like that's the movie. This is the Bush era. This is exactly what the Bush era represents: a Hummer running through poor people's homes with no concern whatsoever.
And heading to the safety of Guantanamo Bay.
Yes, the fact that the finish line is Guantanamo Bay is just like a cherry on top of it. Like it is just like, yes, of course it's Guantanamo Bay. Like it couldn't have been better. And landmines are like the heroic thing at the end of the movie, which is like the amount of.
Well, there's also.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's also that line when they get there and they're like, "Fuck, we're out of bullets" and stuff like that, right? And it's Martin Lawrence is standing there, and he's like, "We're Americans. We pay our motherfucking taxes. Shoot them!" It's like, whoa.
Yeah. But just
whoa.
The fact that landmines are the thing that are like the heroic thing at the end, right? Where it's like the United States has populated the world with so many landmines that are still a danger to children across the planet. Like it's bad, right? There are so many landmines just out there from like fucking fighting the Contras that like we fucked and like have killed children like decades after wars have ended. Like it's bad, and in this movie it's like yay. It's insane. It is peak Bush era cinema. Like it is just this is the Bush administration. The fact that it's a Hummer too. Like how could it be any better than that? Like
my friend Logan Kenny called this the most American movie ever made, and that is correct. I think people want to see American cinema as something, like I mentioned, inherently beautiful or like inspiring. This is rousing, but it's not inspiring, right? It's just like, wow. It is a bold-faced look at pure American-id in the aftermath of the 9/11 terror attacks.
So you're saying is Bad Boys 2 is Nixon in that one scene in the movie Nixon where he looks at the portrait of JFK, but instead of a portrait of JFK, it's Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. It's like when they see you, that's how they think they are. When they see me, that's who they really are.
That's exactly it. Yes, I really believe that. I think this is an essential landmark in cinema history.
No, yeah, and the fact that it's cops too is really important. Like, the more cops become our American Gestapo, like it's gonna be even weirder. But like, it's just like yes, of course, like it was always leading to this, and this is a movie that just perfectly exemplifies it, right? So.
Yeah, if you showed this to Victorian children, it would kill them.
Well, yeah, but like Victoria,
immediately.
They couldn't look at chair legs, like table legs, right? Like that was the thing. If they had,
I actually don't know about that. Is that real?
I believe the Victorian thing, and this could just be one of those apocryphal things, but it's just like it's supposed to be like a summation of how repressed it was. Is that the reason why tablecloths were so long was because they wanted to cover up table legs, so people didn't think of ladies' legs when they looked at them.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah. Improper. Thanks, British Empire, exporting that shit all around the world.
Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Last shout outs. So this movie is shot by Amir Mulkri. He did the cinematography. Do you know who that is?
I know the name, but I can't remember.
Okay, well, he ends up shooting like Man of Steel and Transformers: Age of Extinction. So like pretty good DP. Definitely depends on like the directors that he's working with. But again, this is like his best work, obviously. The score is by Trevor Rabin. The music consultant is none other than Sean P. Diddy Combs, which is unfortunate. But you know, that's what it is. So.
Was it him?
Yep.
I'm looking because I saw Jay-Z. Oh yeah, all right. was executive producer on the album. Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I remember Jay-Z. I couldn't
Um,
remember actually seeing Diddy anywhere on it.
no, there we had a visceral reaction when we saw that in the title credits. We were like, "Oh fuck!"
Yeah.
Like that was like a month after he left the country and is just out hiding somewhere.
Yeah.
So he's still out hiding somewhere.
Always the
Unfortunately.
sign of an innocent
Um,
man fleeing the country.
yeah, this movie goes through like a lot of writing drafts. Um, fucking Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg.
Yeah, yeah.
I think do like they do a lot of the gag rewrites, but they were hired to like most of their stuff is like that's in the script is the gags.
And I believe
But,
Apatow too.
yeah.
Apatow worked on it a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
So, which makes a lot of sense. Maybe this is why this movie is genuinely funnier
I mean,
than the
that
first
actually
one,
might
albeit more evil.
that might explain a lot of the like homoeroticism because that was like a thing for like early Seth Rogen stuff, right? About like bros, like
Hmm.
guys who love each other, man, but not no homo. Like
Yeah,
that was such a thing of their early work.
yeah. I mean, that's super bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Although I think that is a more morally acceptable film by a
yes,
significant margin.
yes,
I love Superbad.
yeah. It's actually a good movie.
Yeah. There's a bunch of fucking people that worked on versions of this script. It ends up going to the credit goes to Ron Shelton and Jerry Stahl. But Tony Gilroy worked on a version of this. I don't know. I don't think anything of his made it into the movie. It might have just been a different like version of the movie entirely. But he did work on it at some point, which is psychotic to think about. I'm trying to think, is there anything else? Oh, Mark Goldblatt is kind of the main editor assembling this together. I don't know what the production was like on this one, but Mark Goldblatt, for those longtime retrospective listeners, also edited Predator 2 and like The Last Boy Scout. Everyone knows Last Boy Scout was like a nightmare fucking production. So I don't know. If I see Mark Goldblatt, I just think someone needed help somewhere
Yeah.
along the line,
The other thing worth pointing out about this is the movie where Megan Fox was on set.
Yep.
When she was
A
15.
too young Megan Fox.
Which like looked like it would Me Too him for a minute, and then it didn't. Right? Like it was Megan Fox used to just pop off in interviews. Like I think maybe just because she doesn't do as many interviews these days, but yeah, she called him out on it like fairly. That was also around the time where like she compared him to Hitler, and Spielberg fired her from the Transformers movies.
Yeah.
A weird moment.
Very weird moment.
In our culture.
Yeah. Yeah, she was 15 at the time of being in the club scene as a dancer. It's the opening club dance scene that we were talking about. I don't even know if she's actually in the movie anymore. I think they cut the scene. I heard that somewhere. I don't have a source on that, so maybe that's not true. But she might be in the background of stuff anyways, which is like not. This is not okay. It was bad.
Yeah.
Don't do that. Later, Megan Fox talks about like when it came to her experiences working with Michael Bay and Steven Spielberg, like she was never assaulted or preyed upon in what she felt was a sexual manner. She said, "I'm thankful to all of you who are brave enough to speak out, and I'm grateful to all of you who are taking it upon yourself to support, uplift, and bring comfort to those who have been harmed by a violent and toxic societal paradigm." So, not great, but I'm glad she spoke up, and it sucks that her career suffered for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know her deal personally. I think there's some weirder stuff happening more recently regarding like the strikes and stuff like that. I think she kind of like she dressed up, and as a celebrity you're not supposed to do that for Halloween and then share it. Maybe don't do that, but
yeah.
Doesn't take away that like, hey, that was not cool what happened to her.
Yeah,
so.
she was in that horrible position of like she pissed off both sides, like because she pissed off industry people, and then like people just hated her in that weird way of like misogyny where it's like they blamed her for the Transformers movies, and it's like she's the least of the movie's problems, but she got so much shit for them.
Yeah.
Even compared to Shia LaBeouf, like, so. It's interesting.
Who is allowed a comeback, apparently. What the fuck's that about?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. people. It's a weird industry. Is he really having a comeback, or is it just the Coppola movie?
It might be the Coppola movie. I think he just got hired in something else, but I don't know all the details
Yeah,
about it.
I think he's gonna be
Yeah.
at the because he had that weird like good run like right before he got canceled. So like,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
He seems like a slightly damaged individual. So maybe he should get out of the industry for his own sake. But
Yeah.
you know, um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it was it not reviewed well. Um, Made money at the box office, but wasn't like a monster hit, right? Like
Yeah. It's
it,
one of those movies we look back on and you're like, oh, obviously that was like the biggest movie of its year, and like it wasn't.
yeah.
It broke even
I
barely,
think
and
I
then
think it makes
made a little extra.
sense that it didn't immediately get a sequel, right? That like it took a while for the
Mm-hmm.
third one. Because I think in the grand scheme of things, it's probably one of Will Smith's lesser performing movies. Um,
Yeah.
Ebert gave it 1 star. Roper named it the worst movie of 2003. Um, which what else is 2003? Like, and that's like the last Lord of the
Return of the
Rings.
King.
Yeah, Return of the King, which is
Yeah.
good movie. Um, but I'm trying to think of like what was there anything? What's the obvious bad movie from that year that like we can't think of?
Hmm. I don't even know what came out in 2003.
Yeah,
Let me check.
I'm,
Let me
I'm
check
looking real
Letterboxd for.
quick. Yeah,
Yeah. What the fuck? Um. Old boy. No. Brother Bear.
bad.
Uh. The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, Cat in the Hat's pretty bad. Um,
Um.
Although, all right, like let's look. Let's like Evan Almighty is that year, which was like a monster hit, and I like loved it as a kid. But like
No, no.
that's a bad
Bruce
Bruce
Almighty.
Almighty. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Which is a movie, it's like a monster hit, and I liked it as a kid. And there's no way, like that movie's not good. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a bad movie. Um,
Oh, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen,
yeah,
which I do have a soft spot for some of that one, but that's a failed blockbuster contender if there ever
definitely.
was one for a lot of reasons. Um.
Daddy Daycare.
Oh, Daddy Take Care. Yeah.
Daddy Daycare, a pretty bad movie. Um,
Oh. We both missed the obvious choice here.
mm.
It's The Room.
Yeah,
It's
but
the year The Room comes
but
out.
the room is like fun, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, maybe that's the reason why we both missed it. You know, it's like
Yeah.
it's so obvious in its like badness, and it's become like the staple of bad movies.
Mhm.
You know, that kind of just like not interesting to talk about anymore. Really.
Here's a pretty bad one.
Um.
Cheaper by the Dozen, which
Okay.
I always
Yeah.
single out
Yeah.
as the first movie I like saw in theaters that like I realized was a bad movie.
Mm.
Like it's like the first moment in my life where like that innocence was shattered. Not all movies are good. So that's a pretty bad one up there.
Yeah.
But not sure. Oh, Kangaroo
Is
Jack.
Hidalgo 2003?
That's 2004. I don't know why I remember
Okay. Yeah.
it, but
I think
it
I've.
is.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is. I checked too. Yeah, that was the first one for me. I saw that in theater and I was excited because Aragorn's in another movie. You know,
Yeah.
like that's my mindset, and I'm like, oh, all right, yeah, whatever.
How about Kangaroo Jack?
Oh my God, yeah,
The
that's a king of like just holy shit, dog shit.
Yeah, that was the famous story with that for people to know is that it was an R-rated comedy, and it had like 2 scenes of the kangaroo in it that tested well with audiences. So they went back and edited a dream sequence into it where the kangaroo like raps and talks, and that was like all the advertising.
Yeah, so when you get there and the kangaroo doesn't talk, you're a little upset as a kid.
Yeah, you are.
Also, I remember my dad and my godfather. They took me and my cousins to watch it because it was like, oh, it's a kid movie. The talking kangaroo, obviously. The befuddlement
Yeah.
on these grown men's faces. It was just like, what happened? This is not like a kid's movie.
No, it is not.
You know, that might be the winner, Kangaroo Jack.
Oh, the Brown Bunny was 2003.
I've never seen that. I'm not really feeling a big urge to at this point.
Yeah, you don't. Vincent Gallo's been saying some stuff lately.
I think Vincent Gallo is just that. It wasn't lately. He's just that.
Yeah, he's an insane person, and we should stop indulging people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like Buffalo 66, but also like he was like horrible to Christina Ricci while making it. So fuck
him.
That guy.
Yeah.
All right. Now we got Bad Boys for Life.
Yes, it took fucking almost 2 decades for that movie to come out.
And I want you to put me in the mind of what it was like for the release of this movie, because I'm not on the team Bay, I'm not on Team Bad Boys. Like I like the second one, but I wasn't hyped for another one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So first you get where Michael Bay's not doing another one.
Mm-hmm.
Back in 2014 or 15, I think Joe Carnahan is tapped to write and direct it. I think that's a perfect like T. On the ball,
I remember,
ball on the tee, fucking swing.
Mm-hmm. I remember that being talked about for a long time.
Apparently his script is like awesome. It's like kind of they reworked it to like a lower budget, so like there's like a boat chase that's like a sidecar chase in Bad Boys for Life. So like stuff of his is in the movie, but not really. And Joe Carnahan, notoriously chill guy, was very cordial when he said like in an interview, he's like, look. It was between me and Will. We didn't see eye to eye on the movie. It's Will Smith on the poster, not Joe Carnahan. His ball game. There's no ill will towards him with that.
Yeah, it seems.
Right?
But Will Smith does seem to be the thing people butt up against a lot of times in the creative process. So.
Hey, if you're the coolest guy who's ever lived, I kind of get it. But like, okay, so that doesn't happen, and then it's like, oh, Bad Boys is dead again. There was this Twitter account that was like, how many days until Bad Boys 3 when that news got announced, and then when the news of Carnahan leaving got announced, they were like, God is dead, and they were like, we'll update like if there's any future references, and then when Adil and Bilal, those are the directors' names, they're Belgian directors, when they get announced, they're doing it. The count goes active again, and they start the countdown, right? It's like 500 days, whatever. And then it was like a cathartic moment for me when it was like 1 day until Bad Boys comes out, and then Bad Boys for Life now in theaters. And that Twitter account has remained dormant. So it's like, yep, it was a really religious moment for me. I think the trailer looks good. I'm not seeing a lot of like the sauce, but like the boys still got it, and other people I remember were like, oh, it's like Bad Boys for Netflix. It looks like a little bit.
Yeah, there was that criticism I remember.
I still don't agree with that.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah, the cinematographer is probably partially responsible for that. His name is Robrecht Havert. He also shot the 2017 film Revenge, which I don't know if you've seen, but I think is a terrific movie. It looks terrific as well. And he comes back for Bad Boys Ride or Die. Coming out, so I'm fucking swinging for this movie. I think there's a lot of like, I don't know, but I'm gonna watch it because it's Bad Boys, And I think this is the time when people are starting to drop off legacy sequels, because we just got Rise of Skywalker a month before the movie comes out.
Rise of Skywalker, and then it's in between Rise of Skywalker and a globe-shattering event. Like, it's the beginning of, it's just that's what's about to happen. Yeah. So. And
then I will cop to this. I do feel that the trailers make it look like a smaller movie, and then I hear it's $90 million, and I'm like, oh geez, can they pull it off? Like, because everyone thinks Bad Boys big, bombast, excess. Like, can they do it? I don't think they fully do in that sense. I do think this is a really fucking good movie.
Yeah, in terms of...
and I think it's...
As a follow-up to Bad Boys 2, it doesn't live up to the bombast. I would agree. But I think in terms of doing its own thing, it's a perfectly functional movie. Like...
Yeah, I think this is the movie... Having now seen 4, I think this is the one that has the most heart.
Yeah, I would agree. Without having seen 4 at this point, but
yeah, 4 still has it, and we'll talk about it. But I think this is a movie where Adil and Bilal, like, because I was reading up everything on these guys. I'm like, how the fuck are these guys? They're taking on Bad Boys from Michael Bay. That's like doing Indiana Jones without Steven Spielberg. You'd have to be a maniac to do that. I think this one worked out a lot better.
It did.
Sorry, I even like that movie, but like, sorry. And they're talking about like, like they're making films. Everyone in their schools, because they're going to art schools in Europe and stuff like that, right? And they're like, everyone's making like dramas, and they're like, we want to make Bad Boys 3. And so that's when I was like, all right, I'm willing to give these guys a shot. Let me see what they're about. And by all accounts, these are like sweetheart men. So that's also good to hear. But yeah, taking on the mantle of Bayhem, I think is a big deal. And I think I can feel a little like constraint from like not confidence, but maybe just like the insecurities of taking that on. Like it's too big. Like Bad Boys 2 is too big to really follow up on in any meaningful, like bombastic way. And I think they nail the tone. I think they nail the pacing. I think it's the best paced of the Bad Boys movies up to that point. I think I can say it now. Bad Boys 4 I think is a better movie overall, and better pace and stuff like that.
I'll have to check it out, but I haven't seen it yet. So
yeah. Well, at the time of recording, it's not out yet.
Oh,
but,
yes.
Yeah. I think this is a genuinely great movie, and the best written up to that point. Actually, it might be the best written overall still, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of like just plot construction, you're probably right. That being said, it has like a soap opera-esque plot. Like, I mean, they straight up they reference Spanish soap operas in this to be like, I think it's them trying to push it more in a Fast and Furious direction, right?
100%, yes.
These are soap operas for the bros, right? Like, and which is not the wrong choice, and they do it without losing the soul of Bad Boys. Although, like, there's a part of me that worries with the whole like ammo setup, right? Like, with like, is that gonna like? Because I think that's becomes the detriment of the Fast franchise, where like they're working for like the secret agency now, right? Like.
Yeah.
Like, I think that kind of it affects those movies. Now it helps that these guys were already cops, so it's like it's just trading out one agency for another, and it's just an agency that can put them in different situations. But still, it's something I'm keeping an eye on, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely a better constructed. That being said, it's a bananas plot that doesn't really make any sense. And
the villain's a witch.
Yeah, the villain's a witch, and there's a secret Smith son. And like it's I don't know if it totally matters, but because this is Will Smith at this point in his career coming off of either critical or box office flops, straight up bombs. Yeah. He's in Suicide Squad between Bad Boys 2 and this, but that made money. That made a shit ton of money.
But no one likes that movie, and he's never been invited back or never tried to come back to the DC franchise. Yeah. He doesn't need them. They don't need him. I'm just saying.
Or he didn't need them.
Or he didn't.
I'm just we got to keep remembering that.
Yeah. I guess you're right. And right before this, the year before, is Gemini Man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my God, only like 6 months before. Or something
and that
like
was an outright bomb. That was just a straight up bomb.
And what is the plot of Gemini Man, or like the premise?
It's Will Smith versus Will Smith, like younger Will Smith.
It's Will Smith versus Will Smith. Yeah. It's an aging star forced to face his eventual mortality, and coming up against a younger version of himself, a bastard son. It's the same plot as Bad Boys for Life, and I think Esther Rosenfield from Letterboxd mentioned that Bad Boys for Life is Gemini for straight people, and that's probably why I love it. But I also do love Gemini Man.
Yeah, I'm not a giant Gemini fan.
That's okay. I am.
But that's also like at a certain point I just stopped liking Will Smith and stuff. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And so that hurt it. This is oddly like one of his best performances in like a long time in this movie.
To the point where even in the press run up for this, he was on Kimmel or something like that, and he was like, I gotta find the clip. I don't know if I will, because there's so many fucking Will Smith interviews now.
Yeah.
But he was like, look, I've maybe not been completely honest about the movies I'm promoting a lot. This one is good. He was like really proud. Like, we got it right here. Like, this is the shit. Like, get ready, because this is gonna blow you away.
Yeah, he was staking.
And I don't know if I'm blown away.
He was staking his reputation on it. Yep. Should have been focusing on other things. like keeping it cool for
No.
5 minutes at an award show.
No, he doesn't have to worry about that yet. At that point.
Hey, all right. So it's interesting that a big part of this movie's plot is that he gets shot, right? He gets shot.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, has Will Smith ever been shot in a movie before?
He shot in the first Bad Boys, but it's like the vest.
Yeah, it's the vest, and same in Wild Wild West. He gets shot and falls, but then it turns out it was the vest he was wearing.
Oh
That
yeah,
saved him.
maybe.
I'm just trying to think of like, have we ever seen Will Smith this injured before? And there's like there's iRobot, but that was like his robot arm. Like there's a lot of weird like outs for him in terms of injuries. So I'm just saying I've never seen Will Smith get shot and fall over, and it's oddly it's a little comical. No offense, it's just you're not expecting to see Will Smith go and fall over. But it's videotaped and uploaded to the dark web because you can't put videos of people getting shot anywhere else but the dark web. Remember we were all afraid of the dark web?
Yeah. Different
times. And it was his video of him getting shot, and everyone is constantly watching about it and talking about it behind his back. But when he enters the room, they have to be like, "No, we weren't. No, like we're doing other things," which is very similar to the goddamn slap that happened.
Oh my god!
It's very similar, and it's the man trying to get his reputation back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, I never thought about that later.
Huh. So there's that, and that's why he's going like that. That's why he's going so hard with the press tour for fucking Bad Boys 4. Like he knows what's up.
Well, hey, look. I guess I could say it because he said this at the premiere. Will Smith doing the opening for Bad Boys 4 at the Chinese theater single-handedly credits Tom Rothman, the head of Sony right now, for, if not saving his career, for like giving him a shot because he said no one else was messing with him at that point. He doesn't say what or why. We all know why. And he probably can't talk about it like publicly.
Yeah.
But there's a good chance Tom Rothman might have saved Will Smith's career.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that Sony is the one in his pocket. Like, Sony is probably the worst studio right now.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I'm not gonna start placing bets, but it's not,
Hey, it's a race. It's a race to the bottom out there. Like, there's a lot of people who are in close competition.
But look, I think a lot of the stuff I'm gonna say is good about Bad Boys for Life, I can attribute, if not double, like even more so, to Bad Boys Ride or Die, Bad Boys 4. In that, like, it just goes to show, like, hey, if you actually give a shit and you're all working together to make a better movie instead of like opposing forces, like, turns out that's gonna work.
Yeah.
It turns out movies work when you all want to make the same movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think that's maybe why I haven't seen the new one, but I'm assuming it's good just based on your recommendation, even though that means nothing. But I think both times Will Smith had something to prove with these movies, right? Like you're saying, this was after a string of flops. Basically, Will Smith could kind of feel it waning, and what's insane about the slap thing is that should have been the moment he like peaked again, right? Like we honestly were on the verge of getting like 5 more shitty years of Will Smith movies post the slap, right? Like,
you think so?
Yeah, because he won Best Actor.
Yeah, that's true.
He won Best Actor, and that would have been like, he's back, he's huge again. All right, now he's going to do 6 movies that no one remembers, and somehow like half of them are going to make $500 million. And they're not going to be great movies. And instead, he just fucking, like, before he won, he fucking cracked, man. Right? Like, I think we've downplayed how crazy that moment really is, right?
I don't think, maybe other people have. I've never let go of that moment. I didn't even see it live, and I've been riding that high ever since. Maybe that's fucked up a way to describe that. But
I have too. I feel like I've brought it up. It's hard to talk about because the unfortunate thing is that like people get real racist about it real quick, right? Like
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I genuinely think that that movie damaged and it's fucked up and it shouldn't work this way. But I think because of Will Smith's image, he was like one of those black actors who could appeal to people who don't normally like black actors, right? Like
Hmm.
I think he was kind of
See, I'm not racist. I like Will Smith
yeah,
movies. You know
yeah,
that
basically.
shit.
Like he's like his rap is very safe. Like he was like a crossover guy in that sense. White people love Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Like it's a lot of that, and I think that moment those people turned on him, right? Like,
Hmm.
which is it's bullshit that that's why, but and I think that hurts the conversation. But it is crazy that he did that. Like it's a crazy thing he did. It's obviously not the
Hmm.
worst thing anyone's ever done, especially in Hollywood. I mean,
Yeah.
the amount of
Just publicly at a work event
the number
that, you know.
yeah, the number of people that have thanked Harvey Weinstein have aged worse than him getting up on stage and slapping Chris Rock. Like but yeah, it's a wild moment. I think that has really affected where his career is going. And it's just interesting that
Hmm.
like we have these two Bad Boys movies in between it, right? Because like what he does, King Richard is after this obviously where he wins the Oscar, but that's a movie that's already like no one talks about, and if they do, it's because of the slap, right?
Yeah.
Like, and then he does that does he do like underground like an Underground Railroad movie or something like that? Like
Yeah, he does Emancipation.
Emancipation, which is a movie no one saw. It was on Apple TV and it got bad reviews.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that was like, and people were kind of lining up to like kick that one in the nuts because of the slap thing, right? And
Hmm.
I do think the new Bad Boys is coming out right at the time where people are like ready to forgive him, right? Like
Yeah.
that, not that he needs that, but just that that's where I think the average person is right now. Um,
Hmm.
Also, did he divorce Jada Pinkett Smith? Like they split up um, at some point.
Did I think they're back together? I don't
That's a
know.
complicated. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that's a
I
complicated relationship.
uh-huh.
But I think they announced they had separated at some point. Um,
Yeah.
it says here they separated in 2016, but they were still kind of in like an open relationship, right? Like,
Hmm.
but I think then they like
Well, because she said at the like, I didn't even want to bring this up too much, but like after the slap, and like she talked about it like at a later date. She spoke about it like, you know, like I went there with Will, but I left with my husband
mm,
after he stood up for her.
well,
And so who knows?
yeah.
Yeah, complicated.
Well,
It's
I was
complicated.
gonna
That's the
say,
status on Facebook.
in terms of like when racism and sexism can get together, it's a powerful force. I think more people blamed her for the slap than him.
That's
But
fucking
yeah,
insane.
but I that's the vibe I get, right? Like when you hear people talk
Yeah.
about it, and I think that when they kind of split up with wherever they're at, I don't even know, but I think that gave people the out to put the blame on her, right? Like that
Hmm.
was like she dragged him down, and now Will Smith can rise again. It's a shitty narrative, but I just think that's the one that people are peddling. I'm not saying
It wouldn't
I'm not
surprise
saying I
me.
agree with that. I just think that's what the sentiment is out there. Um,
Yeah.
you know, I don't want, I never wanted Will Smith to fully go away, and I honestly think that like he should start like leaning into the slap. Like he should go on a
I'm
talk
trying
show
to
and
think.
slap
Does he?
someone. Like I think he's at a
We
point.
should make marketing exciting again.
If
Yeah.
OJ could joke about stabbing people, he can joke about the slap.
Yeah, but OJ was a raging
What do you
psychopath.
mean he was innocent? He's just having fun with the camera crew.
That was fucking. It's so insane. Just look up the OJ clip, his interview, and the joke he pulled at the end of
I
the
like the
interview.
interviewer being like, he pulled what might have been his idea of a joke, and then it's like
Yeah.
insane. But
Yeah. I will say, like, regarding the marketing and the press stuff, I do think there's a very good reason why Will Smith hasn't sat down for junket stuff. Like I mentioned, going to the Porsche Bad Boys experience. Um, there was no sit down and talk to the journalists or even the influencers. It was like, hey, Will Smith and Martin Lawrence are here. Let's go fucking drive some cars, do the relay track, you know,
yeah,
have some free food. You're at Porsche, baby. And it's like, yeah, hype, hype, hype. Um, And then me and some mutual friends were like laughing because the guy there who was like hosting it before Will and Martins got there, he was like, "Oh, get ready, we're gonna make so much content. I want you to make content nonstop today. Content, content, content." And we were just like, "Oh yeah, we love our content. We're here for the content." Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Which was just funny to see even like influencer adjacent people
You know,
being like, "Oh, yep, content."
Will Smith should do one junket, and you know who he should do it with?
Don't say it.
I don't know who you think I'm gonna say, but
Chris Rock.
no, I wasn't gonna say Chris Rock. Although here's why Chris Rock's a coward. You know what he should have done? After the slap, he should have come back out on stage in a neck brace. It's like that. There's like 100. Like that's easy comedy right there. Like to act like he's all fucked up afterwards. Like he should have. He should have struggled to find the mic. Like he's delirious. Like would have diffused the tension a little bit in the room.
Yeah.
So.
No, he is a coward.
He is.
The coward Chris Rock.
He didn't. Yeah. Comedians talk about being brave, and he gets slapped by fucking Will Smith of all people and doesn't know what to do. But anyway, no, he should do a junket with Martin Short as Jiminy Glick.
Oh my god!
Because like half those interviews end with Jiminy Glick getting in a physical altercation with the interview subject. That would.
I think they're building up his street cred again. Even though I think his street cred's there. Will, I'll interview you.
Well, all right, hold on. Will Smith doesn't have street cred. He's got cred, but not street cred.
Press cred. How about that?
Your grandma's cred. Like your grandma likes him.
Yeah.
Right.
Actually, I don't know if she does. I should ask her.
I can't ask mine. They're dead.
Okay.
But,
well, I just got the one left, so
yeah,
I'm on.
You got time.
I'm on borrowed time here.
No, you got plenty of time.
No, I love my grandma. Last year I see the decline. God bless her. She's a hero and a saint.
Take as long as you want. It's endless time. Don't regret a moment of it. Sorry.
It's all right. As long as she doesn't die in between the recording and the posting of this joke is fine.
No, it's even better. Unfortunately. Unfortunately, that makes it really funny. You have to admit.
Maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so there's some new cast members here.
Yes.
Along with Joey Pants. Joey Pants, who plays a pivotal role in this movie. And
does.
Somehow the next movie.
Oh boy, I'm looking forward to that then.
No, well, I'll say, okay, so...
No, don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me.
No, I'm going to talk about this movie and this movie. I'm just saying, if you're listening to this, you've seen Bad Boys for Life, or you don't care and you're just here to listen to me talk about Bad Boys. And then Matt shake his head at my reaction to Bad Boys as being masterpieces. Joey Pants dies in this movie. He gets killed off in this movie.
He gets shot very unceremoniously too. Like, which I'm not saying that as a criticism. Like, that's kind of it's kind of a baller move. Like, to just be like he gets shot. Like, it's such a wild choice, but I kind of liked it.
Well, so in the trailers for this, because I watched the trailers for this movie like a million times each, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I was so fucking hyped for it. There's shots of a funeral. And when Will Smith gets shot early on in the movie, my brain it made the other images of Will Smith throughout the rest of the movie evaporate. And I was like, are they gonna fucking, like... was it like an easy paycheck for Will Smith and they're just doing, like, Bad Boys The Next Generation? Because I remember the fucking younger cast kids, like Vanessa Hudgens, Alexander Ludwig, and Charles Melton. So I was like, are they going to fucking try to pull a fast one on us? And no, they didn't. Thank God. But I got really fucking scared for a second. Mm-hmm. But, talk about, like, the heart of the movie a little bit. Like, the last scene Captain Howard has with Mike, he tells him that story about, like, the guy... riding the back of a horse backwards, and it's like this guy sees him. He's like, "Oh, where are you going?" He's like, "I don't know. Ask the horse." And it's like, you're getting older, Mike. Like, where are you going? And it's like a really human moment in Bad Boys 3. It's just like, take stock of who you are and where you are. Like, what do you want?
A very human moment, slightly deflated by him wearing the camera strap with the big word Sony on it.
Oh, yeah, well,
Gotta get that Sony product placement in there.
that Sony product placement kind of hits all the time, and I mean hits as in like hits me so hard it takes me out of the movie.
Yeah, but
it's been bad.
It's funny though. So what are you gonna do?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Yeah, and then he dies.
Yeah, and then he's
like,
walking, and like
2 minutes after that,
mid sentence gets shot. Like, doesn't get like a heroic last word. Like, just like bang, dead, and it's wild.
And every time the oxygen got sucked out of the theaters whenever I saw that movie again, because people were like, they like these characters, they like these actors in these movies, and you know, there's not like a stacked like cast of recurring characters, but it's not the type of franchise you go to like, oh, like someone's gonna like die, who's gonna die this time or whatever. It's like, oh, it's like that doesn't happen in these types of movies. And I think this is both the benefit and the detriment of doing another Bad Boys. Is like, look, they're older now, so you have to mature a little bit. Like you can't just do Bad Boys 2 again. This is both metatext and like just reality.
Yeah.
And the narrative of the movie, right? Like it's all that stuff where it's like you can't just keep doing that. And by trying to address it, I think it makes the movie more interesting than if they ignored it.
Also,
you know?
It's also like, we should mention that, like, when you mention the scene where Will Smith, quote unquote, dies, right? They do a fake out funeral where then it turns out it's the wedding, right?
Yeah, where Reggie becomes Marcus's son-in-law.
Yeah. And then they're nice to him for once, and they apologize in the speech about harassing him and shit like that, which does feel like a growing moment, right?
And he joined the U.S. Marines, apparently.
Good?
Well, there's a line in the trailer for the fourth one. I'm only going to say it because it's in the trailer for the fourth one. But, like, Marcus is walking around, and he's like, Reggie, did you get my snacks? He's like, no, sir. And he's like, well, you need to get a job. He's on the couch with his kid, right? Yeah. And he's like, I'm a U.S. Marine, sir. He's like, well, then you need to deploy.
Like, that's pretty funny.
Yeah.
We should also mention that Michael Bay is the wedding MC.
Oh, yeah. Perfect.
You know, Michael Bay, not bad on camera. Like a lot of directors get on camera and it's kind of embarrassing. He's not bad.
No.
So, makes me wonder if, like, you could actually put him in, like, a real movie, like, and give him a scene.
Yeah, maybe. There is that infamous, like, digital TV screen presentation he did, like, a decade ago, which the teleprompter shut off, and then so did he, and he had to walk off stage because he didn't know how to, like, do that. And, like, he got made fun of a lot for that, but, like, look, I don't know all the fucking specs for TV stuff, and, like, maybe he could have handled it better, but I don't know. Whatever. There's probably other stuff to drag him for, is what I'm saying. Not that I ever would. I love Michael Bay. He's never done anything wrong.
Another highlight of this movie is DJ Khaled just getting the shit kicked out of him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as Manny the Butcher. Yeah. That's always
probably
fun.
Peak DJ Khaled, right? Like...
Well, did you ever see the video of him, like, jet skiing?
Yeah, he's lost.
When he wasn't supposed to at night?
Yeah, he's lost in the ocean.
He keeps updating his Snapchat.
Yeah, I'm lost. I can't see land anywhere. Like, but you gotta power through the darkness to get... He's, like, doing a motivational thing when he's on a jet ski in the middle of the ocean at night. Like... Genuinely one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Like... I'm lost. I can't see the shore from here. Like,
oh man, that's just so funny.
What a like fucking like charlatan.
Yeah.
He was also the one where he was like posted the photo of him being like, I'm calling Apple to tell them to put on more servers because the songs crash in the servers, and it's like that's not how it works. Like he was on the phone with he's the head of Spotify. Who was like, I'm telling Spotify to turn on the extra servers because the song's crashing. Like, what a dope. We should mention, we should shout out the new people, like you were saying. Vanessa Hudgens, who about like a month after this movie release will go on Instagram and complain about COVID shutting down Coachella or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, it was. I believe the words were. Yeah, you know, it's like a virus, and I respect it. I get it, but, you know, and people, like, will die, which is sad, but, like, inevitable or something like that. It was just like, whoa. Sometimes it's really funny when celebrities get really high and then get online, And then other times it's like, yeah, that's not like the fun high. Like, go maybe take 5
Yeah.
and don't do that ever again.
And then that became the national policy for COVID going forward.
Yep.
So great
If
country.
you're curious if COVID's still a big issue, go ahead and check the numbers in your area.
Yeah.
If you can, because some places stopped reporting numbers.
Yep. Great time. Great thing.
Which is always a great sign,
Yeah.
by the way.
Fucking Alexander Ludwig.
I do like her as an actress, though. Sorry.
I don't know if I do, but
I thought
she's good in this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a High School Musical kid, so can't really speak to it.
Oh, okay. I got a soft spot for those, but like in hindsight,
There's Alexander Ludwig, who I don't actually know very well.
I don't either, but I like him in this.
He is good, yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't he say something about needing therapy when it's over?
Yeah. Like he's like very soft spoken, but he's like built like a truck. So he's like, it's a gentle giant thing that I always get a kick out of. And Charles Melton, who will probably win an Oscar in 5 years.
Yes. Is he not in the new one?
No.
Okay.
No.
That probably says a lot about where his career went.
Yeah. But again, like, because Teresa Randall is back as Teresa in this one, she's not back in the next one. Part of me is just wondering, like, is he just booked and busy, or was it just like, hey, we're shooting this in a month, we're gonna be shooting for 2.5 months, and then the movie comes out in 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is what happened with Bad Boys 4, which is like, look, it's awesome. You can't tell that it was a rush production, and like, frankly, you could only get away with something like that if the script is sturdy, and it is. Don't make movies like that.
Yeah, I think
don't do that to people.
I think it just helps that it is like Will Smith is as much a like producer as he is an actor, right? Like, so I think having him be like the steward of this franchise can really help if you have to do a quick turnaround like that.
Yeah, exactly. So. But yeah, I'm assuming that's why he's not back in it. Maybe it is just like, I worked with Todd Haynes now.
Yeah.
And I deserved a Best Supporting Actor nomination and didn't get it. So I'm going to go try to do that more.
Who shouldn't have gotten the nomination that got it?
Let me see. Who were the best supporting actors last year? Oh, jeez. That's pretty tough. Okay, so Sterling K. Brown, Robert De Niro, Downey Jr. for Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling, Mark Ruffalo.
It was a tough one.
I love Sterling K. Brown. I liked American Fiction.
Yeah.
I think that's the one.
Yeah.
I think that's the one I trade out. I'm sorry.
I'm
sorry.
I think by law we should have Ryan Gosling shouldn't have gotten the nomination without Margot Robbie. Not to be that guy, but I think it is ridiculous that he got nominated and she didn't.
No, I think we're pretty in tandem regarding Barbie as a movie, you and I. No one else is, but we are for some reason.
It's become one of the more controversial movies of the past decade, apparently.
It's fucking absurd.
Yeah.
It's a toy movie.
Yeah, people should.
This happens to be really good.
People shouldn't
chill out.
I like that the criticism of the movie is essentially people shouldn't take a movie about a toy that seriously, and the people saying that are taking it way too seriously. But hey,
Yeah.
That Greta Gerwig.
Oh, but Well, here, for Bad Boys for Life, I want to also mention, like, I think part of the reason why this works so well as a non-Bay entry into the franchise, and I still feel it's very in line with the first movies. I don't think anyone thinks really differently, but I feel the need to defend it anyways.
Yeah.
I think tonally, it's got the vibe. Like, these are summer movie experiences. I think, even though this Bad Boys for Life came out in January, I think it was still like kind of a risky bet considering Will Smith's box office track record the last decade, but. I hear like the music from it. I see the scenery from it, and I just think like, God, like, yeah, Miami, summer beaches, outdoors, parties, drinks, food, good vibes, ride or die, Bad Boys for Life. Let's go, Fun fact, Adil and Bilal, the directors, they shot this in Atlanta. They only had like 2 weeks in Miami, I think. So a lot of the exterior stuff, they're like, we gotta go. when they get to when they get to Atlanta, they're landing, right? And they look out the window. I guess it was like they shot it like in the January prior, and they were like, "Oh no, there's fucking snow everywhere." So they had to like clear off the streets and like, you know, do that whole like what they did with Lord of the Rings, you know, and they clear out like that whole fucking river. It's like that. They had to do that in like a day or whatever.
They cleared out that river, and then Andy Serkis get in the fucking river.
Yeah. So I just think that's funny. It's like, oh god.
Yeah.
These fucking problems.
I mean,
I feel like we also have to talk about Jacob Scipio, I think is how you pronounce his name.
As the son.
Armando. Yeah.
As Smith's son. And
yeah.
I don't know what his career is. I don't know much about him. He was in The Unbearable Weight.
It's his first movie.
Oh, all right. He was in The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, but I barely remember anything about that movie.
Yeah, same.
So
I guess he was in Expendables 4.
A movie no one saw.
Yeah, I didn't see that. He was in Without Remorse. I don't remember him in that movie, but I actually kind of like that movie. It's if you like Tom Clancy bullshit, it's pretty good.
Yeah, that was the good Tom Clancy thing that Amazon did, not the other one.
Yeah, it's the movie that has the hardest moment in any trailer of the last 5 years when Michael B. Jordan locks a man in a limousine, douses the limousine in gasoline, and then lights it on fire, and then enters the car to interrogate him while the car is on fire. That's so fucking awesome.
It was a good moment.
Like, yeah, Jesus Christ. I don't remember him in that movie though, but he's good, and I actually think the heart of the movie works really well. Where like stuff that used to be funny to the titular bad boys, you know, where like Martin Lawrence, he's too soft or whatever, right? And he starts talking like after the captain dies, you know, like I'm gonna try to penetrate this man's soul with my heart, you know, and then that comes back around at the end of the movie when Will's like he's going there to like probably kill his ex and his kid. And he just like can't do it, and then he starts trying to talk him down, and like it's a very human, revealing moment for a character that has not had any of those prior to this movie. Yeah. And then like when they're beating up on the floor together because his son's kicking their asses, Marcus is like, Mike, what are you doing? He's like, I'm trying to penetrate his soul with my heart, and it's like it is in a genuine emotional culmination of their relationship together, and he's trying to like expound that and like use that to win the day, to beat the bad guy. And Marcus is like, no, Mike, I was going through something. It was so funny, but it's like, it's so sincere still.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, yeah, like he was going through something, like it actually, it helps them win at the end. It brings them, it stops him from killing them, you know, and it's a good movie.
Yeah.
It's like shocking how good it is, I think.
Yeah, same. I would agree. It's like it's kind of surprising that they were able to, because I actually think one of the things was smart. They really aren't trying to do Bad Boys 2 again. It's definitely not Bad Boys 2 Part 2, right? Like it feels like it is genuinely trying to be its own thing at this point while keeping all the pieces from the Bay movies that worked. And I think that was the smart move. Like, because you can't outbay Michael Bay, right? Like, you just can't. So don't even try.
No,
but you can do your own thing.
And
I think that's
I will say,
what those guys. I think that what is brought here is the soap opera-y, more emotional stuff that Bay maybe wasn't as interested in. So.
And I think they still like have a handle on like the aesthetics and stuff like that. Like it's such a vibrant movie. There's a good saturation to it. It doesn't look like fucking streaming dog shit, or like even movies I like, some of them are a little like drab, you know, and this one is like, no, here we're doing the 90s gradient sunset filter, you know, every dusk and magic hour it's like a pinkish purple sky, you know, we're getting those sharp oranges, those deep shadows, like the contrast, and it's like, yeah, these guys they knew what they had to do when they got signed on to this movie. I will say I think the action just by, you know, not being Michael Bay, it does suffer a little bit for that, but I don't think it's anywhere near like incompetent or I think it's solid action.
Yeah. It's honestly like
it's
that's
just
what
like,
sets it apart, in my opinion, from Dial of Destiny, where I think Dial of Destiny action.
Yeah, the action's better here.
Yeah, the Dial of Destiny action does not rise to the occasion. Like all those action scenes in Dial of Destiny are fun ideas for action scenes that just don't click, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
here it's like, oh, these are fun and they're well done. Like it's not mayhem, but they're fun action scenes. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I can't believe Dial of
Yeah.
Destiny was such a bomb. That is kind of crazy when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that shit. Why'd you make that cost $300 million?
Yeah, how
You
did
know?
that happen? That's all. There's a lot that happened there that shouldn't have happened. Obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we're the ones that like were most positive on it when we talked about
yeah,
it.
but it was also like okay, right? Like it wasn't like
Yeah, it was like, you know
fuck
what? Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
It was like I could end off there on a very happy note, and the ending got me, and I'm good.
Yeah.
And then people are still like debating it or like berating it, and I'm like, all right, well, look, like whatever. I don't even care that you don't like it. Just like, yeah, it didn't work. Okay,
Yeah, it's
like
not what I'm
move
going, going to
on.
the mat for. Like, but also, yeah,
Yeah.
it is a little weird to me when some people are like really angry about it. But who knows? I don't know. That for some people that could be like, what is it? Like with me with Jurassic World, right? Like where like I just
Oh
reject it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think for
yeah.
some people that's what that movie is, but I don't know. It's not as hateful as Jurassic World. So
No, no,
um,
I don't think that movie is hateful at all. I think
it's oddly
I just don't think it gets there.
sincere, and
Yeah.
and I think it is that thing of like Harrison Ford just clearly loves being Indiana Jones. Like he just
Hmm.
helps it over the hump a little bit for me anyway. Not that I'm gonna.
Yeah, I mean, hey, another one of our great movie stars. You
Yeah.
know, it's like it is great to see Harrison Ford in anything.
Hmm.
He doesn't save bad movies though.
No, he doesn't.
He's been in some true dog shit,
Hmm.
but it's Harrison Ford. Like you kind of let that slide. Like he is kind of one of the
Yeah.
best.
Just interesting way things are
Yeah.
shaking out. So I'm watching how the new Bad Boys kind of plays with audiences, right? Like, because I think we're all trying to get the Geiger counter on like where the culture's at right now. Like, I think no one
Yeah.
knows. Um, so,
Hmm. Yeah, I don't know either.
although
Because this they could have.
I'm starting to feel like Furiosa might have more legs, like going into multiple weeks, because it feels like people are talking about it, and
I really hope so. I was scrolling on the TikToks, and even there, it was one of those comedian guys, and I saw like they were talking about Furiosa, and I'm like, oh geez, like don't want to make myself angry. And he was like, look, Fury Road's the perfect movie, but Furiosa is really fucking good, and I think everyone should go out and watch it. I'm gonna watch it again. And I was like, oh okay, oh yeah, okay, yeah, all right, let's get more of this going. So we'll see. I hope it has legs too, and. Yeah, I mean, like, because even with Bad Boys for Life, like, this is also, like, a couple months before the fucking 2020
yeah,
protests, you know?
yeah,
And it's like, it's a cop, like, a cab.
yeah.
I love my Bad Boys, you know, but it's fictional. And if people have weird feelings about police officers in the real world, is that going to translate again to movies?
Mm-hmm.
You know? We'll see, because the pro cop stuff is in for so like it's like yeah I don't want to give the game away, but yeah it's in there. We'll see, although like I think these new ones, be it the writing or just like specific choices, like they do have their handle on being like more morally correct.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like with Bad Boys 2, we're like praising it for being like, yeah, this is repugnant, but it's like it's too important to toss aside. And these ones, I feel like they are going out of the way to try to be more either progressive or inclusive, you know, but somehow not in a way that's pissed off like right wing grifters.
Yeah. Who knows? I don't know what. I think the right wingers just like kind of like get pissed off at everything and see what sticks, and then it just doesn't stick with certain things. Like,
Yeah, maybe that's it.
I think they're just casually just angry at Will Smith in general.
Oh, yeah, that maybe that's it too,
Because they were
yeah.
also angry. Not like the other thing that was going on with the slap was like in the lead up to it, Will Smith was having that like new open lifestyle thing that he was talking about all the time, and people don't like that when people do that. So he was getting a lot of shit for that, and I think the slap just kind of was like, see what that leads to among people who,
Oh, jeez.
yeah, got a lot of dumb people out there, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's crazy that Bad Boys for Life, I think, is the highest grossing of the franchise.
Yeah.
which is,
and I think that's worth inflation.
yeah, that's wild in a lot of ways. So,
I think the first film is still technically more profitable just because that one had like a baby budget, you
yeah.
know.
But this is also
But
smaller
that's like
budget than the
different.
second one. So,
Yeah, it's like a third the budget of the second one, Bad Boys for Life is. And then even Bad Boys 4, it's only like $10 million more. It's $100 million versus Bad Boys for Life's $90 million. I think I'll just give a little preview for Bad Boys 4. I'm not going to get super into it, but like any, not criticisms, but like softness I have with the action in Bad Boys for Life is like gone for Bad Boys Ride or Die. I think they heard the criticisms of like, well, you know, it's not Bayhem. And they're like, okay, well, we also saw Ambulance, and they start going fucking crazy with the cameras, and it's like it's very invigorating to see. They're like, all right, we like this is it plays like the B-side to what they do with Bad Boys for Life. It's like, okay, let's pay our respects to the master. And then now it's like, okay, but here's what we can really do now with the budget. And, you know, talking about like stars and celebrities that have something to prove, these guys did get a movie just erased from existence a year ago with Batgirl.
oh yeah,
A Deal and Below, you know?
yeah.
And I'm sure they want to make clear, because like even Kevin Feige reached out to them because they did an episode of Miss Marvel that I heard was actually pretty good. Like I think people are aware that like, hey, like whatever happened, I think we all know that the blame is like at Zaslav's feet because you don't delete movies from existence.
Yeah.
Like just don't do that. And so I think they want to make clear like, hey, look, this is what we can do. Like, don't forget about us. And I don't think anyone will. So some of the fucking camera shit in there, I'm like, I don't know how you did that, which is always a great thing to feel. Now, we are coming off Furiosa. So, you know, maybe temper that expectation.
Yeah.
It's not Furiosa.
Although I rewatched, you know, no, that was Bad Boys 2. Never mind. So I was like, I watched these movies and and I was like, oh no, Bad Boys 2 is the one that's held up to Furiosa and the like.
Yeah,
It's Bad Boys 2. But
yeah, that's a godsend of a film, or maybe Satan's send of a film.
has Michael Bay talked about the Mad Max movies anywhere?
I don't think
Like,
so. He should.
I would just be interested to hear what he thinks because he's such an action guy. Like,
Yeah.
but
I don't know. Do you have any final thoughts for Bad Boys for Life?
Wait.
It definitely is like a simpler movie to talk about.
Another question: has Michael Bay ever sat on the con jury?
I don't think so, but he should.
He should. I'd love to see that chaos. But I don't know if nothing more. It's a very solid movie. Like I said, ends on a more optimistic note than any of the other films, really. It's just a fine working movie, right? Like, and it felt very throwbacky too in a weird way, that I appreciated. So I think that helped it too. I'm looking forward to the next one. I want to see it. So which is the best thing I can say, because like Bad Boys was not like a franchise I'm like super in on, right? Like as I've said, it's just a second one. So now that I'm kind of more in on it, I want to see what the next one does.
Yeah. I think you're gonna, at least with the action, you're gonna really get a kick out of it. Bad Boys, the best franchise in existence of all time. No, it's not. But I obviously love these movies, so you know, I think everyone knows I got a bias for these. But I do think Bad Boys 2 is essential to cinema. I do think Bad Boys for Life is a great movie, and I think Bad Boys is a great film debut.
Yeah.
So
go
check out.
It's odd. The only disagreement really this episode is just the first Bad Boys, which I just don't like.
So go check out Bad Boys 4, Ride or Die. It was awesome. I'm gonna share some videos of the Porsche experience I got to do just on the YouTube. Just like little stuff there. It's not crazy, but those cars really do move very fast. Unfortunately, the camera inside the car doesn't make it look like that, but I swear those things can go so fucking fast. And I get it. I get cars now. I get Mike Lowry.
It's actually hard to convey speed if you don't know what you're doing with a camera, right? Like,
yeah.
It's actually
the trick is wide angle, the side of the door.
Yeah.
I promise you, everything looks fucking so fast. If you're going 20 miles an hour on a 0.5 iPhone video view, that shit looks crazy. Don't do it while you're driving. Do it while someone else is driving, and you'll see what I mean.
The people who videotape roller coasters should learn how to do that because they can't sell how fast some of these fucking roller coasters are.
Yeah, 0.5. Just that's the easiest way to do it. Wide angle lens or 0.5 on your phone.
There you go.
That's gonna make all the difference in the world. I promise. Matt, thanks for doing this Bad Boys
No
retrospective
problem.
with me.
I'm surprised we went 3.5 hours basically. So
I'm not.
well, we went longer than
I am not.
We went longer than the last Planet of the Apes one we did. So which is kind of surprising.
Well, these are better movies.
Oh boy, let's not unpack that.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that, but I think I just like them more. I just like this fucking 90s macho action bullshit.
Yeah. I think I know where my heart lies. So we don't have to unpack it. But no, this was good to do. I'm glad I revisited them because it'd been a minute. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. This was a you suggestion, really.
Yeah,
so
I just kind of threw it out there because I was like, I feel like I think the Planet of the Apes thing went very well. So I was like, we should try to do maybe more of that.
Yeah.
We also kind of maybe missed our window with Mad Max. So
yeah. That's fine.
We'll figure out something to do there. But
2 more retrospectives headed your way, listeners.
This
bonus episodes from the failed award contenders have been delayed because basically we just had more ideas to do stuff.
Yeah.
And now we can get started on failed blockbusters, which will be very different, and you will hear more about that very soon.
I think we've said what we're doing, but I can't remember where. So just
okay. I'm pretty sure it's on the secret retrospectives episodes, but stay tuned for that. The weeks after this episode drops. Like and subscribe. If you didn't like this episode, like and subscribe anyways, because you might find something you do like. But if you didn't like this episode, what the fuck? How did you not like any of the Bad Boy stuff? Okay, whatever. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We have been professionally unprofessional.
Bye.